Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I've put together a new collection of interesting stories, so whether you're here to relax, fall asleep, or just listen in the background, this should be a good one. Feel free to let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always interesting to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, let's start with the first story. It is titled,
I gave my daughter a small cafe so she could start a new life. When I arrived, she was crying. Her mother-in-law had taken over the cafe, forced her to do all the dirty work for free, and made fun of her. I acted quickly, the bells above morning brew. Cafe jingled when I pushed through the glass door. Burnt coffee hit my nose first. Then something sour from the kitchen. Wrong. All wrong. Then I saw her. My daughter Delaney on her knees in the bathroom doorway. Door propped open for the whole world to see. Scrubbing tile grout with a toothbrush. Her face was red wet. She wiped at her eyes with the back of one hand, kept scrubbing with the other. Delaney, you missed a spot. Again, the voice came from behind the counter. Sharp, sweet as artificial sweetener. A woman in her early 60s sat at the register like it was a throne. Silver hair, perfect designer glasses on a chain. Aura Foster, my daughter's mother-in-law in the cafe I bought for Delphine 3 months ago with every penny I had. Delphi's head jerked up. Our eyes met. Hers went wide. Panicked. Dad. Lemuel. Aura's smile could have sold insurance. What a lovely surprise. We weren't expecting you. My jaw tightened. I came to see my daughter. I walked toward Delphine. And her cafe. Our cafe, dear. Delaney and I are partners now. Laura tilted her head. Didn't she tell you? The toothbrush fell from Delphine's hand, clattered on tile. Hi, Dad. Sorry, I'm just her voice cracked. Finishing something. Partners. The word sat in my chest like spoiled meat. I'd spent 35 years as a health inspector. Knew when something was rotting. Travis sat in the corner. Delaney's husband, Aura's son, laptop open, eyes down. He shifted in his seat when I looked at him, but didn't speak. One customer in the whole place, an older woman at the window table. She stared into her coffee like it held answers. Let me help you, honey. I reached for the toothbrush. Oh, no. Lemuel stood, smoothed her skirt. She needs to understand proper cleaning standards. The health inspector was very clear last month. My hand stopped. What health inspector? Aura waved dismissively. Just routine. Delphine had a few oversights. We fixed everything. Her smile widened. Oh, you'd know about that, wouldn't you? Your old profession. The coffee machine hissed behind the counter. Steam rose. I counted to 5. Travis. I turned to my son-in-law. How's work treating you? He barely looked up. Fine, Dad. Busy. He's been such a help here or answered for him. Managing the finances, dealing with suppliers. Someone needs to handle the serious work. I can handle, Delaney started. Sweetheart, we've discussed this. Stick to what you're good at. Aura's voice dripped honey. The baking. Deli's hands curled into fists. She stood, grabbed a rag, moved to the nearest table, started wiping in circles. Fast circles. I ordered coffee from Aura. Not from my daughter. Had to. She poured it with theatrical precision. Tell me what you think of our blend. I've made some improvements to the sourcing. Our improvements. Every word. A tiny knife. The coffee was weak. Bitter. Wrong temperature. I'd shut down restaurants for less. Delicious, I said. My hand shook when I raised the cup. Coffee sloshed, spilled on the counter. Aura's eyes tracked the movement. Something flickered in her expression. Satisfaction, maybe. She pulled a towel from under the counter, wiped the spill with exaggerated care. No worries, Lemuel. Accidents happen. I wanted to grab that towel. Wanted to deep breath. Count to 10 this time. The woman at the window table stood, left without finishing her coffee. The bell jangled behind her. I'd love to see the partnership papers. I said, voice steady, casual. Business documents so boring. Aura laughed. Travis handles all that legal stuff. Isn't that right, honey? Travis nodded, said nothing. 35 years I'd inspected restaurants, watched owners lie, watched them squirm, watched them try every trick in the book. I knew guilt. I knew deception. I knew when I was looking at both. Well, I set down my cup. I should let you ladies get back to work. Oh, we're always working, Aura beamed. Running a successful business takes constant attention. Constant. But that's what family does, right? We support each other. I looked at Delaney. She stood at the far table, rag in hand, staring at nothing. Right? I said. The bells jangled when I left. Gentler this time. Or maybe my ears were ringing too loud to tell. I drove home. 20 minutes through Portland traffic, mind racing, hands tight on the wheel. Around 7, my doorbell rang. Delaney stood in my apartment hallway, eyes read. She walked in without speaking, sat on my couch, pulled her knees to her chest. I told her I was picking up supplies. She whispered. I sat beside her. Waited. The dam broke. Dad, I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down her face. I didn't want to tell you. I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? She said she'd help with startup costs. Said it was a family investment. Made it sound so generous. Her words tumbled out fast. Desperate. Then the papers. There was so much legal language. Travis said it was normal. He promised it was just to protect everyone. My chest tightened. Let me see them. She pulled a folder from her bag. Shaking hands. I opened it. Partnership agreement. Page 1 looks standard. Page 3 made my stomach turn. Page 7. She owns 51%. Delaney sobbed. The lawyer said I can't forget what the lawyer said. My voice came out cold flat. I'll fix this. Dad, she's got money connections. And Delaney. I took her hands. Look at me. She did. I spent 35 years closing down restaurants that broke the rules. I squeezed her hands. I'll fix this fast. She left after 10, sneaking back like a teenager breaking curfew. I sat in the dark. The partnership documents lay on my coffee table. 51 pages of legal theft. My eyes drifted to the shelf. Between my vintage sanitation posters, Wash Your Hands, Save Lives, from 1952, sat a small leather wallet. I hadn't opened it in 3 years. My hand reached almost by itself. Inside, my old ID badge. Senior Health Inspector, Oregon Health Authority. The photo showed a younger me, more hair, less gray. Same eyes. Same eyes that had shut down 43 restaurants in my career. I ran my thumb over the embossed seal. A smile crept across my face. Not a nice smile. The badge sat on my nightstand when I woke. Habit kicked in. Early mornings, decades of them. 6 a.m. sharp. I showered, dressed carefully, khakis, button-down shirt, comfortable shoes, inspector casual. Muscle memory is funny. Hadn't worn this combination in 3 years. My reflection showed someone different from yesterday's shocked father. This man had a plan. The cafe opened at 7. I got there at 7:30. Delaney stood behind the counter alone, dark circles under her eyes. She jumped when the bell rang. Dad, what are you? Black coffee, please. I spoke loud enough for the 2 customers at separate tables and one of those cinnamon rolls. Her eyes flickered, understanding. Right. Yes. 1 coffee, 1 roll coming up. I took the corner table, unfolded the Oregonian, glanced at headlines I didn't read. My real attention was on operations. The refrigerator door hung open. 20 seconds. 30. Temperature abuse. Delaney grabbed milk. Closed it. Finally. No thermometer visible on the outside. Red flag. Dairy products sat near the prep area. Too close to where she'd just cut vegetables. Cross-contamination risk. No date stickers on open containers. Violation of OR 3330. Her phone sat on the prep counter. Contamination vector. I'd seen enough in 10 minutes to cite 5 violations. My coffee arrived. I thanked her. She hurried away. 35 years I'd done this. The same way a carpenter sees load-bearing walls. I saw health code violations. Automatic. Unavoidable. Lee mule. Becoming a regular already? Aura appeared from the back. Fresh makeup, fresh smile. She pulled out the chair across from me. Uninvited. See, I told Delaney. Good coffee sells itself. The place seems different from last time. I sipped my coffee. Still weak, still wrong temperature. New systems? Oh, absolutely. Aura leaned forward, eager. I've implemented several efficiency measures, reduced waste, optimized inventory, streamlined operations. Small businesses fail because of overspending on unnecessary things such as premium dairy for one. The generic brand is half the price. Her eyes glittered. Customers can't tell the difference. Optimize corporate speak for cheap out. I'd shut down a restaurant for serving expired milk once. Apparently, in Aura's world, expired was just another optimization opportunity. Mental note, check the walk-in fridge date labels if they existed. Smart, I said. Thank you. Travis and I have been reviewing every expense line. He's got such a head for numbers. Travis arrived, then nodded at me, sat at his usual corner table, headphones on before his laptop even opened. The morning rush started. 3 customers became 5. Delaney moved between counter and tables. Aura stayed planted at the register. No, no, no. Aura's voice cut through the calf. Buzz. She crossed to where Delaney wiped a table. Circular motions. Watch. She grabbed the cloth from Delphine's hand. Demonstrated. Slow, deliberate, like teaching a child. See, no streaks. It's not complicated. I was doing it that way. Were you? Because 3 customers mentioned streaky tables yesterday. 3. Do you know what that does to our reputation? 2 customers at nearby tables shifted. Uncomfortable. Travis looked up. Mom, maybe. Travis, please. I'm training her. Someone has too. 35 years I'd inspected restaurants. Never once did I check if tables were wiped in circles or straight lines. Know why? Because it doesn't matter. But control matters to people like Aura. Control is the point. Excuse me, I stood. Could I use the bathroom? Of course, Aura beamed. Down the hall. We keep everything very clean. Lemuel would approve, wouldn't you, Lemuel? Given your background. I walked past the counter. The bathroom hallway gave me a perfect view of the kitchen pass-through. Cleaning chemicals stored on the shelf next to dry goods. Violation. Mop sink too close to handwashing sink. Another violation. I took 3 photos with my phone. Quick, subtle. The bathroom itself was clean. Deli's work, I'd bet. But the handwashing station had a crack in the sink basin. Minor, but citable. 4 more photos. When I returned, Aurora had taken my seat. Literally, she sat in my chair looking at my newspaper. You know what section I love? She didn't wait for an answer. Business. I read it every morning. Understanding market trends is crucial for success. I'm sure it is. Delphine never reads it. No head for business, that girl. Sweet. But Aura trailed off. Let the silence finish her sentence. I pulled out my wallet. Left a 20 on the table. Coffee and roll were maybe $6. Keep the change, Delaney. Aura's hand shot out, took the 20, smiled at me while she counted it, pocketed it. How generous. We'll put it toward new equipment. The espresso machine needs repairs. Delaney stood by the counter, staring. I left without looking back. Home laptop. 3 hours reviewing Oregon administrative rules, chapter 33. The health code I'd memorized decades ago. Some things had changed. Most hadn't. My notebook filled with violations. I'd observed temperature control failure, cross-contamination risks, improper date labeling, chemical storage violations, equipment maintenance issues, all minor individually. Together, different story. Around 6, I called Dwight Clark. 40 years in the health authority. We'd trained together, worked together, closed down the Morrison Street Bistro together in 6 hours flat. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Lim Patterson, 3 years retired and suddenly calling about health code violations. What's the occasion? Can an old friend check in? His laugh barked through the phone. You never checked in once in 3 years. Spill it. Who screwed up? Hypothetically. I leaned back in my chair. Small calf. New ownership. Several or 333 violations. Temperature control. Date labeling. Cross-contamination risks. Hypothetically, his tone shifted. Professional. That's 3 citable offenses. How bad? Bad enough, but the owner's confident. Thinks rules don't apply. Those are always my favorite. Dwee's smile came through the phone. The confident ones. We talked for an hour about nothing, about everything, about the old days. You know what, LM? I miss working with you. The department's different now. Younger guys, all about computers and risk assessments. Nobody's got that instinct anymore, that feel for when something's wrong. I pulled open my old filing cabinet, the one I'd kept from my office. 43 years of contacts, inspectors, supervisors, department heads, people who owed me favors, people I'd trained, people who remembered when Senior Inspector Patterson shut down that bistro in 6 hours flat for flagrant violations. Martinez Chen O'Donnell. My finger traced down the pages. Do we? I said, voice soft. Someone's about to get a refresher course on Oregon Administrative Rules, Chapter 333. Time to see if Aurora Foster really understands what business optimization means. I hung up. In the silence of my apartment, I whispered 5 words to the empty room. Welcome to my world, Aura. 2 days after I'd whispered the threat into my empty apartment, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by paper. Not just any paper. 35 years of accumulated knowledge, Oregon administrative rules, printouts, health code violation checklists, complaint form templates. My coffee had gone cold. Hadn't noticed. The filing cabinet in the corner stood open. Contact lists, inspection protocols, enforcement procedures. Everything I'd promised myself I'd forget in retirement. Funny how it all comes rushing back when you need it. I pulled up the Oregon Health Authority's website, official complaint form, right there in the public portal. Simple, clean, bureaucratic. But I didn't just fill it out. I crafted it. Every word chosen to trigger red flags. Multiple violations observed. Cross-contamination risks. Temperature abuse of potentially hazardous foods. Repeated concerns from vulnerable populations. Magic phrases, the kind that bump a complaint from routine follow-up to immediate inspection. I'd written 3,000 inspection reports in my career. This one felt different, better, more personal. My yellow legal pad sat next to the laptop. 4 stages outlined in my cramped handwriting. Stage 1, health inspection. Stage 2, social reputation damage. Stage 3, legal action. Stage 4, financial consequences. Stage 1 was almost ready, just needed the final pieces. My burner phone app downloaded the night before. Paid account, untraceable to my main number sat open on my phone. I dialed Delaney. She answered on the first ring. Hello, honey. You alone? Silence. Then Travis is at his mother's. Dad, what's going on? Listen carefully. I kept my voice level. Tomorrow when you close, I need you to forget a few things. The date labels on the dairy. Don't replace them. That temperature log by the walk-in. Maybe you're too tired to fill it in. Long pause. You're setting her up. I'm letting the truth show itself. I gripped the phone tighter. Will you help me? Her voice dropped to a whisper. What time should I expect? Truth. Day after tomorrow. Mid-morning. You'll know when. After we hung up, I stared at my laptop screen. The complaint form was complete. Perfect. Devastating. My finger hovered over the submit button. This was it. Once I clicked this, I'd be using 35 years of professional knowledge to target my own daughter's business. Sure, Aurora had created the violations. Aurora had cut corners, endangered customers, but Delaney's name was on the license. Her calf, her dream, the one I'd bought with every penny I had. I remembered her face on her knees, scrubbing grout with a toothbrush, crying. Click submit. The coffee shop Wi-Fi made the upload smooth. I'd driven to a Starbucks blocks away at 3 o'clock in the morning. Paranoid maybe, but complaints were logged with timestamps and IP addresses. Back home, I opened my email. Confirmation from OITA. Your complaint has been received and assigned reference number 2025 PDX 11847 stage 1 in motion. Late afternoon, my phone rang. Dewey's name on the screen. You still up? His voice was warm. Of course you are. Tell me. Pulled up the complaint. Lim, you manipulative bastard. He laughed. You wrote it like a textbook example. Hit every trigger phrase we have. Vulnerable populations. That's code red for us. I mentioned elderly customers and young children. Exactly. Makes it high risk. Automatic priority response. Papers rustled on his end. Complaints flagged. Should get assigned to a team within 48 hours. Should will. I'm monitoring it personally. Not because you asked. Because the complaint warrants it. Everything by the book. Lim. I'm not breaking protocol. Your complaint just happens to be perfectly written. You trained me well. Yeah, I did. His voice softened. But Lim, stay away from the scene when it happens. You can't be anywhere near Morning Brew that day. If there's any connection between you and the inspection, I understand. Do you? Because Aura sounds like the type to ask questions. Why now? Why this timing? You visited her cafe recently, right? As a customer, as a father. That's what you tell her if she asks. Nothing more. Got it. I promised. Meant it mostly. Evening came. I opened my laptop, writing the high of my complaint submission. Stage 1 was working. I could feel it. The Google review page for Morning Brew stared back at me. 43 reviews. Average, 4.2 stars. Most were positive. A few complaints about service speed. Nothing about sanitation. Time to change that. I created a new Google account. Philip Henderson. I'd pulled the name from a random generator website. Apparently the 47th most common male name combination in America. Perfect. Generic. Forgettable. Profile picture stolen from a stock photo site. Middle-aged white guy. Slight smile. Blue shirt. Could be anyone. Could be everyone. Philip Henderson. Concerned citizen and absolute fiction. The review wrote itself. 1 star. Professional but concerned. Disappointed by apparent lack of attention to sanitation standards. Observed concerning practices during recent visit. Hope management takes food safety more seriously. My cursor hovered over post. Should I use a VPN proxy server? No. Overthinking it. Just a review from a fake account with a fake name and a fake photo. Clicked post. 11:47 p.m. The review appeared instantly. I leaned back, satisfied. 2 strategic strikes in one day. The complaint official and devastating. The review, public and damaging. 35 years I'd filed inspection reports. Never once had I enjoyed it this much. My laptop chimed. Video call incoming. Fletcher's face filled the screen. Berlin apartment behind him. Dad, you look different. Focused. I'm fixing what needs fixing. Does Delaney know your plan? She knows enough. Not everything. Fletcher leaned closer to his camera. And the legal side. Is it everything I'm doing is legal? I'm just making sure the law does its job. He nodded slowly. Dad, I'm transferring $5,000 to your account tomorrow morning. Don't argue. You spent your retirement on Delphine's dream. Let me help protect it. My throat tightened. You're a good son, Fletcher. Learned from a good father. His smile was fierce. Now go get her. After we hung up, I sat in the dark. Fletcher's support steadied me. Made this feel less like revenge, more like justice. My phone buzzed. Past midnight. Dwi again. It's done. No preamble. Day after tomorrow at 10 a.m. Martinez and Chen, they're the best we have. Thorough fare by the book. They'll find everything that's findable. Do we? Don't thank me. I didn't do anything except let the system work exactly as designed. You wrote a textbook perfect complaint. It got the response it deserved. He paused. Lim, stay away from morning brew that day. You hear me? If Aura suspects any connection, I understand. But I knew myself. I'd spent 35 years watching inspections unfold. I wouldn't miss this one. After we hung up, I sat listening to Portland's rain against my window. Stage 1 almost complete. 48 hours until Aurora Foster learned what 3 decades of health inspection experience looked like when aimed at her. My phone glowed. 1 new notification. Google alert. Someone had replied to my Philip Henderson review. I opened it expecting nothing. Aura, her verified business account. The reply was public, visible to everyone. We take all customer concerns seriously and would appreciate the opportunity to discuss your experience. Please contact us directly at your earliest convenience. We pride ourselves on exceeding all health and safety standards. Professional, appropriate, and underneath a threat. I'm watching. I see you. I will find you. Should have felt worried. Instead, I smiled. Let her watch. Let her waste energy chasing Philip Henderson's ghost. I had bigger problems lined up for her. Problems with badges and clipboards and the full force of organ administrative rules. Chapter 333. 2 days crawled by like wounded animals. I cleaned my apartment twice, reorganized my vintage sanitation poster collection, called Fletcher to discuss Berlin weather of all things. Anything to burn time. The morning of the inspection, I woke at 5. Couldn't help it. Decades of early morning inspections had programmed my internal clock. By 9:30, I'd violated Dwi's instructions. Been there, small calf, across Morrison Street for morning brew. Perfect sightline through both establishments' windows. I ordered cappuccino, made myself comfortable at the corner table. What temperature do you keep your milk? I asked the barista. She laughed. That's a weird question. 40 degrees. Manager's obsessed with the thermometer. Checks it like 5 times a day. Good manager. The cappuccino arrived. Perfect microphone. Heated to exactly 150 degrees if I'd bet money. The irony of drinking properly prepared coffee while waiting to watch morning brew gets cited for temperature violations. Sometimes life has a sense of humor. Usually a dark one. 10 a.m. sharp. White Oregon Health Authority sedan pulled up. 2 inspectors emerged. Woman with clipboard. Martinez. I recognized her from training sessions years ago. Man with digital thermometer visible on his belt. Chen, younger, methodical, all business, no social niceties. Through morning brew's large front window, I watched Aura's expression shift. Welcoming smile, then confusion, then concern. Martinez showed her badge. I couldn't hear the words, but I'd said them 1,000 times. Oregon Health Authority routine inspection. Aura's smile got bigger. Welcoming. She thought this was formality. Martinez didn't smile back. Professionals never do. Chen moved toward the kitchen. Aura's hand fluttered up, trying to redirect him. Her gesture said, "Let me show you around." Chen ignored her. Also professional. Never let the owner control the inspection route. I took another sip of excellent cappuccino. This was what justice tasted like. Turned out it tasted like properly steamed milk and other people's panic. Martinez spread out at the front counter, checking temperatures, opening containers. Chen disappeared into the kitchen. Delaney stood frozen by the espresso machine. Travis sat in the corner, laptop open, headphones on, deliberately oblivious. 40 minutes later, the inspectors emerged from the kitchen. Even from across the street, I could see Aura's face had gone pale. She was talking fast, gesturing, pointing at Delaney, at the kitchen, at the inspection report in Martinez's hand. The universal language of, "This isn't my fault, it's her fault." Martinez's face stayed flat as concrete. I trained her well. Never react to the show, just write up the violations. Through being there's window, I watched Aura's performance like it was Netflix. Better than Netflix. This had real consequences. Her face went from concerned business owner to I need to speak to the manager to full Karen nuclear option in about 6 minutes. Martinez handed her papers, official forms, yellow copies. Aura snatched them, started reading, her expression transformed. Rage, pure rage. She wheeled on Delaney. Even through closed windows, I could tell she was screaming. 2 customers grabbed their coats, left hurriedly. Travis pulled off his headphones, looked up, did nothing. Cowardice personified. The inspectors left professional, unmoved. They'd seen the show before. I finished my cappuccino, left cash on the table, walked to my car 3 blocks away. Home. 20 minutes through traffic. My hands shook on the wheel. Stage 1 complete. Late afternoon, my burner app rang. Delaney. Dad, I can't talk. She's Aurora's voice in the background. Who are you calling? Nobody. Just call disconnected. I stared at my phone, texted instead. You did perfect. Stay strong. This isn't over. Response came an hour later. She's blaming me for everything. Says I ruined the business. Travis won't defend me. Dad, I'm scared. I poured whiskey. Neat. 2 fingers. Drank it. Fletcher called around 6. How did it go? $2,500 fine. Written warning. 30-day follow-up inspection scheduled. That's huge. Dad, you did it. Stage 1 complete. Yeah, it worked. Maybe too well. What do you mean? Or is smart? She's going to ask questions. Why now? Why this timing? But you filed anonymously. There's no connection. I hope you're right. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Aura's voice. Ice cold. Lemuel. Not Lem. Formal. Cold. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. Aura, what can I do for you? Don't play innocent. It's insulting to both of us. I don't know what. The inspection, the Google review, the timing. You think I'm stupid? My heart pounded. Played dumb anyway. The cafe got inspected. That's unfortunate, but these things. Philip Henderson. Ring a bell? Her voice was sharp. No, because Philip Henderson doesn't exist, but his IP address does. Want to guess what address that is? Silence. My mouth went dry. We need to talk face to face. Tonight or I go to the police with harassment evidence tomorrow morning. Your choice. My apartment. 1 hour. See you then, Lemuel. She hung up. I sat on my couch. Phone still warm in my hand. Felt something I hadn't felt in 40 years of restaurant inspections. Fear. Not abstract fear. Real concrete fear. Aura had evidence, a lawyer, resources. She could frame this as harassment, stalking, interference with business. The Google review, my own stupid Google review, was proof I'd targeted her establishment. What if I had miscalculated? What if protecting Delphine meant destroying myself? I was 70 years old, no savings left, living on Social Security and a modest pension. One lawsuit could wipe me out. My apartment, my dignity, everything. My hand shook as I poured another whiskey. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Delphine. Dad, she knows you helped me somehow. She's coming for you. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I read it 3 times. My fault, she said. No. I drank the whiskey. Put the glass down hard enough to crack it. This was Aurora's fault. She'd stolen from my daughter. Humiliated her. Turned her dream into a nightmare. I didn't start this war. I just wasn't going to lose it. 20 minutes until Aura arrived. I paced between kitchen and living room, wearing a path in my cheap carpet. I pulled out the partnership documents. 51 pages. 51 pages of legal theft. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. I'm parking. Bring coffee. This will take a while. Oh, the audacity. I didn't make coffee. The knock came exactly 1 hour after her call. Firm. 3 times. Official. I opened the door. Aura stood in my hallway wearing a cream-colored suit and pearls like she was attending a board meeting. Silver hair perfect. Makeup perfect, smile sharp enough to cut glass. Behind her stood a man in his 50s. Gray suit, leather briefcase. He extended his hand. Mr. Patterson, I'm Richard Donovan, Miss Foster's attorney. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Us? She'd brought her lawyer. Come in. I stepped back, though I didn't agree to anything. You threatened me, and I'm curious why. Aura swept past me, scanning my apartment like she was assessing property value. The lawyer followed, setting his briefcase on my coffee table, the same table where I'd planned this entire revenge. She turned to face me. Smile disappeared. Lemuel, let's stop playing games. I know you filed that health complaint. I know you posted that Google review. I know you're trying to destroy my business. Your business? I let the words hang. Interesting choice. Yes, my business. The one I saved from your daughter's incompetence. The one you're now sabotaging. She pulled out her phone, tapped it, turned the screen toward me. Philip Henderson's review, posted from your IP address at 11:47 p.m., 2 days before the inspection. Want to explain that? The lawyer opened his briefcase, pulled out papers, placed them on my coffee table with practiced precision. Mr. Patterson, you're looking at a harassment claim. Intentional interference with business operations and defamation. Miss Foster is prepared to file. I laughed, couldn't help it, or his eyes narrowed. You think this is funny? I think you came into my home to threaten me with lawyers. I picked up the partnership documents from my coffee table, held them up. Want to talk about illegal activity? Let's discuss fraud, coercion, theft by deception. Those documents are legitimate, are they? Because the Oregon Secretary of State website shows you filed LLC paperwork 3 weeks before the partnership conversation, premeditation. That's interesting timing, don't you think? The lawyer looked at Aura. Miss Foster, you didn't mention because it's lies. He's making it up. Public records, I said. Anyone can look them up. I've already sent screenshots to my son and to a lawyer friend just in case something happens to me. The room went quiet. Aura stared at me. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked uncertain. Then her phone rang. She glanced at it. Expression shifted, confusion, then alarm. What? When? How many? Listened. I'll be right there. Hung up. Looked at me with something close to hatred. Someone just posted photos on Facebook. The health inspection, the violations list, the fine. Portland Foodies Group, 12,000 members, they're destroying us. I kept my face neutral. Inside, I was thinking, stage 2. I didn't plan that one, but I'll take it. Aura grabbed her purse. This isn't over. No, I agreed. It's not. But Aura, that Google review, that's the least of your problems. You started a war with someone who spent 35 years shutting down people who broke the rules. I'm just getting started. She left, lawyer scrambling after her. I closed the door, leaned against it. My hands were shaking. Stage 1 complete. Her confidence shaken. Next move, hers. And I had no idea what it would be. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Dad, it wasn't me who posted the photos, but thank you to whoever did. D, if it wasn't Delaney and it wasn't me, then who? The apartment door closed behind Aura and her lawyer. I stood there back against it, heart hammering. Stage 1 had worked. The inspection, the fine, the Facebook post going viral. But Aura wasn't retreating. She was escalating. And the mystery Facebook post. Someone else was in this game. Someone I didn't know about. That should have worried me more than it did. I poured another whiskey. This one I actually drank. Wait. Voices in the hallway. I opened my door. Quiet. Peered out. Our Donovan waited for the elevator, his back to me, checking his phone. Aura stood apart, pulling out her cell. I stayed in my doorway, out of sight. Hallway acoustics are funny things. Her voice carried. No, Don't worry about Patterson. He's made his little health complaint. Feeling powerful. But the transfer documents are almost complete. 1 more month and Morning Brew will be entirely mine legally and permanently. My breath stopped. His daughter signed everything we need. She was so desperate to save the partnership. Stupid girl doesn't realize she signed away full ownership. 51% was just the first step. The elevator dinged. Aura continued. By the time he figures it out, it'll be too late to challenge. Yes. Send the final papers next week. Doors closed. Voice cut off. I stood frozen. Not 51%. 100%. Complete theft. My $85,000. Delaney's dream. Everything gone in 30 days. I walked back inside, phone in hand, shaking hands. The business card was tucked into my address book. Fern Rodriguez, business attorney. We'd met 3 years ago at Morning Brew. She'd said, if your daughter ever needs legal help, I know this world. I dialed 4 rings. This is Fern Rodriguez. Ms. Rodriguez Lemuel Patterson. We met at my daughter's cafe 3 years ago. I need an emergency meeting. My daughter is being defrauded and we have approximately 30 days to stop it. Pause. The cafe with the excellent cinnamon rolls. Yes. What kind of fraud? The kind where someone steals a business through forged partnership documents. The kind that's almost complete. Long pause. Mr. Patterson, I can meet you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. my office downtown. Bring every document you have. I'll be there. If this is what you say it is, we have very limited time. Oregon has strict statutes on partnership agreements. Once documents are filed and processed, they're extremely difficult to challenge. I understand. Do you? Because proving fraud requires substantial evidence. Do you have that? I thought about Delphine's texts, the business records, the health inspection, and the phone call I just overheard. No recording, just my word. Worthless in court. I have some evidence and 30 days to get more. Then that's what we'll do. 8 a.m. tomorrow. She hung up. I looked at my apartment. Documents everywhere. My kitchen table looked like a conspiracy theorist's workspace. Stage 1 had worked. Aura had been fined, embarrassed, exposed. I thought that was enough. Wrong. She wasn't backing down. She was going nuclear. My phone buzzed. Text from Delaney. Dad, are you okay? Travis said his mother is furious. What happened? What happened? I'd started a war I might not win. I typed. Meeting with a lawyer tomorrow morning. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Trust me. Can you do that? 3 dots. Then I trust you always. I stared at those 2 words. Always. I opened my laptop, created a new document, evidence log, or a foster fraud case. Started typing. Date, time, location, what I'd overheard, verbatim quotes. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Stage 2 was about to begin. This time it wasn't about health inspections and online reviews. This time it was about the law. And in that arena, I wasn't the expert. Aura knew that. That's why she'd brought a lawyer to threaten me. She'd been 1 step ahead. I needed to catch up fast. 8 a.m. came too fast and too slow. I'd spent the night organizing evidence, printed texts, screenshot business records, timeline, notes from the overheard conversation. By dawn, my kitchen table looked like a crime scene. Fern Rodriguez's office was downtown. Converted warehouse, exposed brick, modern glass, her name on brass plate on the 3rd floor. Rodriguez and Associates, business law. I knocked at 7:53 a.m. She opened the door herself, coffee in hand, already reviewing documents on her laptop. Mr. Patterson, you're early. Good. Her conference room smelled like expensive coffee and desperation. Mostly the coffee. My desperation was free. She spread the partnership documents across the table like a forensic investigator displaying murder evidence, which legally speaking, this kind of was. These are thorough. Fern's tone was neutral, professional. That's lawyer speak for whoever screwed, you knew what they were doing. Great. I've been screwed by a professional. Comforting. Can we challenge them? Legally, they're valid. Deli signed, notarized. Filed properly. She looked up. But if she signed under duress, if she didn't understand the terms, if Aura misrepresented what she was signing, that's actionable. We need evidence. I heard her on the phone. She admitted the whole plan. Your testimony of an overheard conversation. Fern shook her head. Hearsay inadmissible. We need her words recorded. Undeniable. Oregon's a one-party consent state. Fern's eyebrows rose. You've been researching 35 years as a health inspector. I know recording laws. If Delphi records conversations, she's part of its legal evidence. Exactly. Fern smiled. So, we need Delphi to provoke Aura into admitting the fraud on record. She'll do it. Are you sure? Because if Aura discovers the recording, my daughter spent months being humiliated by this woman. She'll do it. I called Dwi. I need tech help. Someone who knows recording devices. Discreet legal today. Pause. My nephew Oliver, IT security. 3 hours later, I met Oliver Clark at a coffee shop. Dewey's nephew, 24, IT security specialist. Hoodie, laptop, bag, energy drink instead of coffee. Uncle Dewey said, "You need recording equipment." He pulled out a small device. Sony ICD-PX 470. Looks like a calf. Order tracker, right? Clips to an apron. 44 hours recording time, voice activated. I took it and it's legal. Oregon's a one-party consent state. If she's participating, she can record it. Totally legal. What if Aura finds it? Oliver grinned, generic looking. Worst case, your daughter says it's for tracking orders. Young people are so easy to please. Give them a chance to explain gadgets, and they'll help you commit legal adjacent surveillance for free. That afternoon, I opened my laptop. Proton Mail account, anonymous, encrypted. Subject, disturbing story about exploitation in family business. Morning brew calf. I wrote carefully. Ms. Pierce. I'm writing anonymously because I fear retaliation. Morning Brew Cafe on Morrison Street. You may remember it for excellent cinnamon rolls. The owner, Delaney Patterson Foster, is being systematically exploited by her mother-in-law, Aurora Foster. Aura pressured Delphine into signing away majority control, now treats her like unpaid labor, takes all profits, publicly humiliates her. Recent health inspection revealed violations are created. Someone needs to tell this story. Hit send before I could second guess. 3 days crawled by. Delaney wore the recorder clip to her apron. Captured hours of Aura's demeaning commands, cutting remarks, constant criticism, pattern of abuse evidence. Day 4, mid-after afternoon, slow period. Travis had just left for a meeting. Aura counted the register. Delaney approached. Recorder active. And can I ask you something? What? Aura didn't look up. I've been thinking about the partnership, about the calf. Will it ever really be mine again? The way Dad intended. Aura paused, looked up, amused. Yours, Delaney, sweetie, when was it ever yours? Dad bought it for me. Your father threw away his retirement on a business you couldn't manage. I salvaged it. This cafe works because of me. But legally, I still own part of it, right? Aura laughed cold. Legally, stupid girl, this cafe is already mine. The papers you signed, they transfer full ownership. Your father just doesn't know it yet. Another month and it's final. You'll be an employee if I'm generous enough to keep you. Silence on the recording. Delaney genuinely shocked. You signed everything. Travis made sure of that. You trusted him. Trusted me. And that was your mistake. Then silence. 10 seconds of nothing. When it resumed. And there's nothing your father can do about it. His little health inspection tantrum cost me $2,500. I'll make that back in a week. That evening, we listened in Fern's office. Me, Delaney, Fern, Oliver. When the gap hit, Fern's face fell. Wait, it cut out. Oliver examined the device. Power interruption. The clip must have loosened. I'm sorry. Of course it did. I laughed, slightly hysterical. Of course, because nothing in this plan could go smoothly. Fern cleared her throat. It's still usable. But with that gap, a defense attorney could argue context is missing. So, we need more. We need more. 2 nights later, Delaney called late evening, voice shaking. Dad, I heard Travis on the phone with his mother. He said he chose her over me. Come over now. The guest room is yours. She arrived 30 minutes later. 1 suitcase, red eyes. Tell me. He was on the phone with Aura. I wasn't supposed to hear. She was yelling about someone asking questions. Some food blogger. Travis kept saying he'd handle it. Then Aura must have accused him of being weak because he said, her voice cracked. I chose you over her. I'm with you. I've always been with you. What did you say? I told him to leave. Told him we were done. He tried to explain, but there's nothing to explain. He chose his mother over his wife. Simple as that. My phone pinged. Email address I didn't recognize. Xfoodscene247gmail.com. Subject, Rem morning brew situation. I opened it. Mr. Patterson, I'm guessing. I received your message. I'm Octavia Pierce. I remember Delaney. I remember her cinnamon rolls and her smile. I did some digging. Talk to regulars. Something's very wrong at Morning Brew. I'd like to hear Delaney's side. My article publishes in 3 days. Octavia. 3 days. I hadn't expected her to move this fast. I responded, thank you. I can arrange a meeting. Delphine is ready, but we need discretion. The people exploiting her have resources. Her response came within minutes. I can and will. This story matters. Portland supports its own. Tell Delphine I've got her back. I closed the laptop, looked at Delphine on my couch, suitcase at her feet. Marriage ended. There's a food blogger who wants to hear your story. Article publishes in 3 days. Will it help? It'll make the health inspection look like a parking ticket. She almost smiled. Good. I pulled up the evidence log. Added entries. Recorded admission from Aurora Foster. Partial confession. 10-second gap, but substantial incriminating statements. Travis Foster chose mother over wife. Delaney witness. Marriage ending. Support system secured. Social media investigation initiated. Public opinion campaign beginning. We were building a case. Piece by piece. Stage 2. In motion. Stage 3. Coming in 72 hours. My phone glowed with Octavia's last message. Portland supports its own. I smiled. Not a nice smile. Aura thought she'd won. Thought she had everything locked down. She was about to learn what happens when you underestimate a father protecting his daughter and a daughter who's finally done being the victim. 3 days later, I sat at my kitchen table with Delaney, watching her laptop screen refresh. Octavia Pierce's article had gone live at 6 a.m. By 6:30, 200 shares. By 7, 800. By the time we finished our coffee, around 8, we'd stopped counting. The title sat at the top in bold letters. The Dark Side of Morning Brew, a story of financial abuse and family exploitation. Below it, Delaney's story, not anonymous. She'd insisted on using her real name. People need to know it's real, she'd said. I'm done hiding. I'd been proud of her courage. Now, watching the numbers climb, I wondered if I'd prepared her for what came next. Internet justice moves fast, and it's never neat. Listen to this one, Delaney said, reading. I used to go to Morning Brew weekly until I saw how the owner treated her daughter-in-law. Never going back. Delaney deserves better. It has 847 likes. Keep reading. That woman Aura is exactly the kind of toxic person who ruins small businesses. I witnessed Aura screaming at Delaney for dropping a spoon. A spoon? The comments kept coming. Hundreds, then thousands. By noon, Morning Brew's Google reviews were flooded. 1 star, 1 star, 1 star. People posted photos of themselves at other cafes. Hashtags, support Delaney and I boycott Morning Brew. My phone rang. Do we limb? You crazy bastard. It's working. Everyone's talking about it. That's the problem. Everyone's talking. No, that's the solution. Public opinion is a weapon. You just fired it. He was right. But weapons have consequences. That afternoon, Aura posted a response. Official Morning Brew account. Delphine read it aloud. Morning Brew management wishes to address recent defamatory allegations. Management? I said she's calling herself management of your caf. Claims made are one-sided and omit crucial context. Morning Brew was facing financial insolvency when Ms. Foster invested capital to save it. Delaney scrolled. Oh, no. The comments. What are they saying? Top comment has 400 likes. Found Aura's burner account. Next one. This is exactly the gaslighting described in the article. She was making it worse for herself. Good. Let her dig deeper. Around 4 o'clock, my phone buzzed. Text from Delaney. Dad, turn on TikTok. Search Morning Brew. The video had 120,000 views. Aura red-faced screaming at Delaney in the cafe while customers recorded, you leaked this. You told that blogger lies about me. Delphine stood quietly, calm, while Aura unraveled. The comments were brutal, creative, hilarious. She's giving strong I want to speak to the manager energy, except she is the manager, and the manager's screaming at the owner. I screenshot that one for posterity. That evening, my email pinged. Unknown sender. Subject, your past. I opened it. Mr. Patterson, I've learned interesting information about your employment history. Specifically, your termination from County Health Inspection in 1999 for conflict of interest and ethical violations. My stomach dropped. 25 years. I'd kept that buried for 25 years. $20,000 cash. Instructions will follow. Or Portland Sentinel receives a full dossier on your fraudulent career. You have 48 hours. Delaney looked up from her laptop. Dad, you okay? Fine. I closed the email, opened it again, read it twice. She crossed to me. What is it? I showed her. Her face went pale, then hard. What happened in 1999? I'd known this question would come eventually. Hoped it wouldn't. I was a county inspector. Saw another inspector cite a small family restaurant, Mexican place, elderly immigrant couple for violations that were technically accurate, but applied with unusual strictness, the kind of strictness white-owned restaurants didn't face. Delphine listened. I filed a complaint about discriminatory enforcement. My supervisor disagreed. I went over his head to the county commissioner. The restaurant's citations got reduced and I got fired for standing up for fairness for insubordination and conflict of interest. I had eaten at their restaurant twice. Technically violated impartiality protocols. I paused. So technically they were right to fire me. But you were standing up against discrimination. Yes. And I lost my job for it. Had to move to Oregon. Start over. I never told you in Fletcher because it's complicated. Being right doesn't always mean winning. 25 years. I'd spent 35 years rebuilding that career in Oregon. One email could destroy it. 3 whissies. That was too many. I poured them anyway. What if Delaney believed Aurora's version? What if she thought her father was actually corrupt? Maybe I had gone too far. Maybe I should have just hired a lawyer from the beginning, filed a civil suit, handled this through proper channels. Instead, I'd orchestrated health inspections, manipulated social media, pushed my daughter to record conversations. Was I any better than Aura? I looked at my phone. I could call Fletcher, ask him to wire the money. End this or I could keep fighting. I drank the 3rd whiskey, then poured the rest down the sink. 3 was too many. I needed to think clearly. I opened a new document, started typing everything about 1999, every detail. If Aura was going to tell my story, I'd tell it first. My way. If my children couldn't understand that sometimes doing the right thing costs you everything, then I'd failed to teach them the most important lesson anyway. Delaney put her hand on my shoulder. Dad, you sacrificed your job to do the right thing. Now you're doing it again. That's not corruption. That's consistency. The email says you'll be disappointed in me. The email is from a woman who slaps her own son and steals from her daughter-in-law. She turned my laptop toward me. Look, public opinion is decided. You're the hero. Tell the whole story. They'll understand. When had she become so strong? Okay, I said. Tomorrow morning, I call Portland Sentinel. Tell them everything. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. 48 hours starts now. I know you're with Delaney. I know you're planning something. Pay me or I destroy you both. Oh. Not even hiding anymore. I put the phone down, looked at Delaney. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling Portland Sentinel and forwarding them this text. Blackmail is a crime in Oregon. She smiled. Fierce. Tomorrow morning. But tonight, let's watch her PR statement get torn apart. I'll make popcorn. We spent the next hour reading comments. Someone had edited the TikTok video to add dramatic music. Someone else created a bad business owner bingo card. For the first time in months, Delphine laughed. Really laughed. At midnight, my laptop pinged. Email from Octavia. Lim Portland Sentinel contacted me for an interview. They're doing a follow-up piece about systemic elder financial abuse in family businesses. Your fight is becoming a movement. A movement? Christ. I just wanted to save my daughter's calf. I typed back, Octavia, I'm calling Sentinel tomorrow with a story about my own past. Can you connect me with the right reporter? Her response already done. Marcus Chen, expect his call at 8 a.m. Portland loves comeback stories, especially ones about standing up to bullies. I closed the laptop. 46 hours until Aura's deadline. 8 hours until Marcus Chen called. 1 week until the lawsuit hit the courts. I turned off the lights. Tomorrow, we'd tell Portland the truth. All of it, and we'd let Aurora face the consequences of threatening the wrong man. Morning came with Marcus Chen's phone call at exactly 8 a.m. I'd been awake since 6 rehearsing. How do you explain 25 years of buried history without sounding defensive? Turns out you just tell the truth. Marcus listened for 40 minutes without interrupting. When I finished, including Aura's blackmail demand and threatening text, there was silence. Then, Mr. Patterson, this isn't about corruption. This is about someone who sacrificed their career for fairness and is doing it again. Can you forward me that blackmail text? Oregon has strong anti-blackmail statutes. This woman just committed a felony. I forwarded them immediately. By noon, Marcus had written his article. By 2:00 p.m., it was published. The Inspector's Principles. Lemuel Patterson's 25-year fight for justice. Aura's blackmail attempt had backfired spectacularly. Instead of destroying my credibility, she'd given me a platform to explain exactly why I fought so hard, and she'd committed a crime doing it. The article included quotes from the restaurant owners I defended in 1999. Marcus had tracked them down. They were still running their business. Grateful, it included the blackmail texts with Aura's identity revealed through reporter investigation. Oregon State Bar received complaint about the extortion. By evening, Aura's lawyer, her third, quit. Richard Donovan had left after the confrontation. The second lasted 1 day after learning about the blackmail. The third sent one aggressive cease and desist letter, then withdrew when he read Marcus' article. Ms. Foster, did you send extortion demands? Because if you did, I'm withdrawing immediately. I don't represent criminals. 2 days later, Fern filed the official lawsuit. Patterson vs. Foster. Multnomah County Court. Fraud, coercion, theft by deception. Court date, 1 week. That afternoon, I walked past a Bank of America branch, saw Aura at the ATM. She tried to withdraw cash. Screen said, transaction denied. Limit exceeded. She tried again. Denied again. Denied. Her hands shook. She leaned her forehead against the machine. Her shoulders shook, crying. For a moment, I saw not the villain, but a desperate woman who'd gambled everything and lost. Then I remembered Delphine scrubbing bathroom floors while crying. The pity faded. I walked away. That night, Delaney got a text from Travis. I'm sorry for everything. Tell your father he won. We're leaving Portland. Don't look for us. The next morning, we arrived at court for the hearing. Aura and Travis didn't show. The BAWAF confirmed. No contact, no lawyer, no response. Fern requested warrant for Aura's arrest. We drove to her apartment. Neighbors said they'd seen them loading a car with suitcases around 2 a.m. The apartment was empty. Lease unpaid. Aura Foster had fled. 2 days later, Delaney returned to Morning Brew for the first time as undisputed owner. Fern had got an emergency order preventing Aura from accessing the property. We unlocked the door. Me, Delaney, Fletcher, who'd flown in from Berlin, and Fern. The register was empty. Aura had taken the cash. Inventory was decimated. Bills piled on the counter. Utilities, suppliers, rent, a note taped to the espresso machine in Aurora's handwriting. This could have been successful if you just stayed out of the way. You ruined everything. Oh, Fletcher read it, started laughing. She stole your business, embezzled money, committed fraud and blackmail, and we ruined everything. Delphi took the note, folded it carefully, put it in her pocket. I'm framing this. The last words of Aurora Foster, still managing to be the victim while fleeing the state. Fern spread documents across a table with the default judgment, which we'll get since they fled. Delaney owns the CAF. Free and clear, but she inherits all the debts Aura created. How much? Delphine asked. Total liabilities approximately $70,000. Assets maybe $30,000. Net position $40,000 in debt. Fletcher cleared his throat. I have $40,000 in savings. It's yours. Fletcher? No. Not negotiable. Dad gave you $85,000 to start this place. I'm giving you $40,000 to save it. We're family. The bell above the door jingled. A woman in her 60s walked in. I heard on the news. Is this place open? Are you Delaney? We're not officially open yet, Delaney said. But I'm making coffee. I would love some. The woman pulled out a folded check. This is from my book club. We want to help. She handed Delphine a check for $800. More people started arriving. Some wanting coffee, most bringing donations, flowers, gift cards, checks, cash. One man brought a toolbox. I'm a plumber. Heard you might need repairs. No charge. By noon, we'd collected $6,000. By evening, $12,000. Volunteers scrubbing floors, painting walls, fixing hinges. Fletcher posted photos to Instagram. Morning Brew is rising from the ashes. Community support is incredible. 2,000 likes. That night, back at my apartment, I poured one whiskey. Celebratory. Delaney was asleep on my couch, exhausted, but smiling. Fletcher was on the phone with his partner, laughing. My phone buzzed. Email from Fern. Court date rescheduled for next month. Filing for default judgment. Should be straightforward. However, there's one complication about the property deed. Call me in the morning. A complication, of course, because nothing in this nightmare had been simple. But I'd learned something. Complications can be overcome. Villains can be defeated. Justice sometimes actually wins. And family, real family, is worth any price. I closed the laptop, drank the whiskey, turned off the lights. 1 month until the court date. 1 month until this nightmare was officially over. Unless Fern's complication turned out to be another battle. I'd find out tomorrow. Tonight, I was going to sleep well because my daughter was safe. Her business was saved and Aura Foster was gone. That was enough. The complication turned out to be simple and devastating. Aura had cleaned out the cafe register before fleeing. $15,000. Community donations deposited as cash. Money Delaney needed for suppliers. Security footage showed her entering at 1 a.m. She still had keys. Theft. Stupid, desperate theft. I filed the police report at 8 a.m. Detective Morrison was unsurprised. Fleeing suspects grab whatever liquid assets they can. We've issued warrants. Warrants don't pay suppliers. By noon, I had a lead. We called. You sitting down? My buddy at PDX Airport Security ran the names. Aura Foster bought a one-way ticket to Las Vegas yesterday morning. Southwest departed 6 p.m. Travis was on the same flight. Las Vegas, of course, the city where desperate people gamble their last dollars, hoping for miracles. We flew out the next day. Me, Fletcher, Delaney. Detective Morrison provided Aurora's credit card trail, Motel 6, East Tropicana Avenue, 2 miles from the Strip, not the glamorous casino hotels, the kind of place where people hide when they've run out of everything. We arrived mid-afternoon. Nevada heat hit like a wall. 105 degrees merciless. The motel was sun-bleached pink stucco. Cracked asphalt. Aura's rental car sat in spot 47. Room 128. Ground floor. Curtains drawn. I knocked. Silence. Knocked again. Aura. It's Lemuel Patterson. We need to talk. Long pause. The curtain shifted. Someone looking out. Finally, the door cracked. Chain still on. Travis's face appeared, unshaven dark circles, looking 10 years older than 3 days ago. She doesn't want to talk to you. I don't care. Open the door or I call Las Vegas police. Your choice. The door closed. Chain rattled. Opened fully. The room smelled like stale cigarettes. 2 unmade beds. Empty wine bottles. Fast food wrappers scattered. Aura sat on the far bed back against the headboard. Yesterday's clothes. Her silver hair unwashed, tangled, no makeup. She looked small, defeated, nothing like the woman who'd swept into my apartment with her lawyer. She didn't look up when we entered. You stole $15,000 from my daughter's cafe before you ran, I said. Money community members donated. That's a new low. Silence. Why Las Vegas? I continued. Did you really think you could gamble your way out? Aura's voice came flat. I thought I don't know what I thought. That maybe I'd win. That maybe I'd have money to pay you back. Make it right by stealing another $15,000 on your way out. I panicked. I needed cash. The cards were maxed. I just grabbed what I could. Delaney stepped forward. That was money people donated to help me. Community members who gave out of kindness. Aura finally looked up, eyes red. I know what it was. Do you want to know why? Aura said quietly. Why I did all of it. Greed, I said. She shook her head. When my boutique went bankrupt 10 years ago, I lost everything. Not just money, my friends, my reputation, my place in the world. I was someone. Then, nothing. Just a broke old woman with failed dreams. She looked at Delaney. When you got that calf, I saw an opportunity. Not just to make money, to be someone again, to matter. I started with genuine help, but then I realized I could have this. I could own it. The cafe became my last chance to prove I was still worth something. So, you stole my dream to rebuild yours, Delaney said coldly. Yes, that's exactly what I did. Travis stepped forward. Deal Elfie, I know you hate me. I deserve it. But please understand. Don't call me Deal Elfie. Don't blame your mother entirely. You made choices. Every step you chose. I was weak. She's controlled me my whole life. You're 37 years old. You had a choice every day. When she made me scrub toilets, when she humiliated me publicly, you could have said no. You chose comfort over courage. You chose her approval over my dignity. Travis started crying. I love you. I still love you. I don't care. I'm filing for divorce. I want you out of my life completely. Delaney, please. We're done forever. You don't get redemption. You don't get forgiveness. You get to live with what you did. A knock on the door. Las Vegas PD. I'd called them before we entered. Aura Foster. Aura stood slowly. That's me. You're under arrest on warrants from Portland, Oregon. Felony theft, fraud, and embezzlement. She extended her wrists, got handcuffed, looked at me one last time. Did you really need to chase me to Las Vegas? Couldn't you just let me disappear? You stole $15,000 from community donations meant to help my daughter. No, she was let out. You know what the funny part is? I almost respect you. You're as ruthless as I am. You just have better PR. The difference is I fight for my family. You fight for yourself. We stood in the parking lot afterward watching the police cruiser pull onto Tropicana Avenue. Travis remained by the motel room, not arrested. No proof he knew about the theft, but destroyed anyway. He looked at Delphine, mouth opening. She turned away, walked to our rental car without looking back. That was the moment of defeat, not the handcuffs. The turn back. Fletcher put his hand on my shoulder. Come on, Dad. Let's take Delphine home. We flew back that night, landed in Portland at 11 p.m., drove through dark streets to Morning Brew. The cafe sat empty, temporarily closed sign in the window. I need to see inside, Delaney said. We unlocked the door. The interior smelled stale. Most inventory gone. Aura had taken it when she cleaned the register. Delaney picked up envelopes from the counter. Bills, unpaid suppliers, final notices, started opening them. Her expression never changed, but I watched the light dim with each envelope. Dad. Her voice was small. It's worse than I thought. How bad? She spread bills across the counter. With the stolen money, unpaid suppliers, legal fees, back rent, we owe $23,000 before we can even think about reopening. Fletcher spoke up. I have the $40,000 I offered. You already loaned money. I can't take more. And $40,000 barely gets us operational. It doesn't cover inventory, staff, insurance. She looked up at me, eyes filling with tears. Dad, I won legally, but I lost everything anyway. Morning Brew is dead. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She was right. We defeated Aura. Gotten justice, but justice doesn't pay bills. Let's go home, I said finally. We'll figure something out tomorrow. Driving away, watching Morning Brew disappear in the rearview mirror. I wondered what was there to figure out. We'd saved the cafe legally, but destroyed it financially. Maybe Aura had won after all. Back at my apartment at 1 a.m., Delaney went to bed exhausted. Fletcher made tea. Neither of us drank. Dad, he said after long silence. What do we do now? I didn't have an answer. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I genuinely didn't know. The next morning came too early. My phone buzzed. Missed calls, text messages, emails, numbers I didn't recognize. First text, saw the news about Morning Brew. We want to help Susan. Our second, read about Delaney. Attaching donation coffees on us. Portland Foodies Group. More texts, more offers. By the time Delphine woke, my phone had 73 messages. Fletcher's had 42. News of Aurora's arrest had made the Portland Mercury, the Sentinel, every food blog, and Portland had decided to do what Portland does best, take care of its own. Octavia Pierce posted at 6 a.m. Morning Brew needs our help. Delaney fought and won legally, but faces $23,000 debt from Aurora's destruction. I'm starting a GoFundMe. Who's with me? Within 2 hours, $8,000. Delaney read messages crying, Dad, listen. We're a commercial kitchen. We'll donate 20 pounds of flour and 10 pounds of butter monthly for 6 months. And this, I'm a licensed electrician. I'll update the wiring free. That's Portland, I said. We take care of our own. Fletcher looked up from his phone. There's a Facebook group. Save Morning Brew. 4,000 members organizing supply drives. Volunteer shifts. By end of first week, $31,000. 8,000 more than needed. 6 weeks of renovation followed. Fresh paint from volunteers. New tables donated. Equipment repairs at cost. Delaney's 8-year-old daughter, Faye, helped paint a mural. Stick figure woman holding a coffee cup like a shield. Mom the superhero. Reopening day. Line around the block. Local news coverage. Octavia documenting everything. Delaney's apple cinnamon pie sold out in 20 minutes. 6 weeks after that. Aura's sentencing. Moulton County Courthouse. Orange jumpsuit. Hair pulled back. No pearls. Judge Martinez. 18 months county jail plus $15,000 restitution. Before being led away, Aura asked permission to speak. Delaney, Mr. Patterson, I destroyed your family. I stole from you. Everything they said about me is true. I am exactly the villain everyone says I am." Her voice cracked. "What I told you in Vegas was true. I wanted to matter again, and I destroyed your lives to get it. That's unforgivable. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm just acknowledging what I did. For the first time, I'm telling the complete truth. I'm sorry." She looked at Delaney. "Your cafe is beautiful. I saw photos online. You did that, not me. Everything good about Morning Brew was always you." Delaney stood, walked out without a word. Aura watched her go, nodded slowly. "I understand." 1 month later, a letter arrived from Travis from jail. Unpaid child support from his first marriage. Delphine read it aloud. "I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm writing to tell you I understand now. I wasn't just weak. I was complicit. I chose comfort over courage. I watched my mother hurt you and did nothing. That's cowardice. You deserve better. I signed the divorce papers. No contest. I hope Morning Brew succeeds. I won't contact you again. Travis." She folded it. Put it in a drawer. Didn't respond. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived. No return address. Eugene postmark. $5,000 check. Note from Travis. Everything I could gather. She deserves this tea. I stared at it a long time. Then forwarded it to Delphine without comment. She deposited it without comment. 6 months after reopening, Morning Brew thrived. Not wildly successful, but stable. I sat at my usual corner table most mornings. Newspaper, black coffee. Delaney behind the counter chatting with customers. Faye doing homework at a table. Fletcher video called weekly from Berlin. His photo hung on the cafe family wall next to my vintage sanitation poster. Octavia came in twice weekly writing a book about Portland's food community. Morning Brew featured prominently. Travis sent child support payments on time, never with notes, just checks. Delphine deposited them without comment. Aura still had 8 months left. Delaney never visited, didn't plan to. Aura wrote letters occasionally. Delphine didn't open them. Kept them in a drawer, not for closure, just because throwing them away felt like caring enough to make the effort. The cafe was Delian's, fully hers. No one could take that away. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when I first gave her the keys. It was harder, more complicated, built on rubble and community goodwill, but it was hers. One Saturday morning, someone asked me, was it worth it all that fighting? I looked at my daughter, smiled slightly. Ask me in 10 years, because that's the truth. Victory isn't a moment, it's what you build after. Fletcher appeared on video call at the bar. "Dad, you know what's funny? Aura thought an old inspector would be easy. She forgot. I spent 35 years shutting down establishments that thought they were smarter than the rules." He laughed. "That's the most you've ever sounded like a movie hero. Heroes don't exist, Fletcher. Just stubborn old men who refuse to let bullies win." "Dad," Delaney called from the counter. "Order up. Your cinnamon roll is ready." I walked over. She watched nervously. I bit into it. Chewed. Swallowed. "Well, perfect. Just like everything else you do." She smiled. Really smiled. The kind that's been missing for months. That right there, that's the victory. Not the legal judgments, not Aura in prison. Not the money raised. Just my daughter smiling while making cinnamon rolls in her own calf. I'm 70 years old. My retirement savings are gone. My daughter's a divorced single mother running a calf. That almost destroyed her. But she's free. She's strong. She survived what tried to break her. The mountain air through the cafe door felt clean. I breathed it in, all of it.
And that concludes this story. That was a pretty wild one if you ask me. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Now, let's get right into the next story. It's titled,
My wife told me the family vacation was canceled. Too tight this year, just staying in. So, I spent the day working. That afternoon, my wife's sister posted a video, a full house, turkey carving, family-only invitations. Everyone was there except me. I stayed silent until wife texted, "Venmo me $3,000. It's urgent." I replied, "Ask the family you chose." Then I cut off every payment and watched the fallout. Look, I'm not the kind of guy who throws tantrums when things don't go my way. I'm an engineer, for crying out loud. We solve problems with logic, spreadsheets, and the occasional stress-induced energy drink binge at 2 a.m. So, when my wife Laura sat me down at the kitchen table with that serious face she reserves for bad news and discount shoe sales, I figured we were about to have a real adult conversation about our finances. You know, the kind where two mature people acknowledge that life's expensive and sometimes you've got to make sacrifices. Real heartwarming stuff, honey, she said, doing that thing where she touches my hand like I'm a golden retriever about to hear, he can't go to the park. The family vacation's off this year. Money's just too tight right now. She gave me these puppy dog eyes that could have won an Oscar, and honestly, I bought it. Hook, line, and sinker like an absolute chump. I nodded like the responsible, understanding husband I apparently was back then. Sure, babe, I said, probably sounding like I just agreed to donate a kidney. Times are tough. It's 2025. Everyone's broke unless they're selling crypto or feet pics on the internet. I even threw in a supportive shoulder squeeze because I'm nothing if not a team player. We're in this together, right? For better or worse, in sickness and health, in poverty and whatever the opposite of poverty is that we clearly weren't experiencing. So, I did what any beautiful spouse would do. I canceled my vacation leave at work, which, let me tell you, was about as fun as canceling Christmas. My boss actually looked concerned when I told him I wasn't taking time off. You sure, man? You've been here 3 years and haven't used half your PTO. That's not healthy. But no, I insisted. Got to stay home. Got to save money. Got to be the rock of financial responsibility while the economy does whatever nightmare thing it's doing this week. I even, and this is where I really deserve a medal for husband of the century, offered to pick up extra shifts at the engineering firm, more billable hours, more overtime, more money for the family fund because that's what we do when times are tough, right? We buckle down, we sacrifice, we adult so hard it hurts. That morning started like any other day in my newly vacation-free existence. I was parked at my home desk, drowning in project reports that read like they've been written by robots having existential crisis. CAD files, stress calculations, client emails asking why things cost money. The usual engineering glamour. My coffee was getting cold. My neck was developing that special kind of ache that screams you need a better chair and also a vacation. And I was generally living my best budget-conscious life. Then I saw it, the notification that would fundamentally alter my understanding of marriage, trust, and what constitutes acceptable behavior in a committed relationship. Laura had posted a photo on social media because of course she had because this is 2025 and if you didn't post it, did it even happen? The photo showed her in full makeup, the kind that takes 45 minutes and 3 YouTube tutorials to achieve, wearing a sun hat that probably cost more than our last grocery run. She was smiling like she just won the lottery. Or at least like someone who definitely wasn't experiencing a crushing budget crisis. The caption, "Working from home today, son." Working from home with a sun hat, right? Because nothing says remote spreadsheet warrior like looking ready for a garden party in the Hamptons. I stared at that photo for a solid 30 seconds, my engineer brain trying to calculate the probability that she was in fact working from our home and not say literally anywhere else on planet Earth. The math wasn't matting as the kids say or used to say. I don't know. I'm busy working to afford a vacation I'm apparently not invited to. But hey, maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe she was just feeling cute, wanted to boost her mood during these tough financial times. Maybe the sun hat was on sale, and she was practicing self-care on a budget. I'm a reasonable man. I can give people the benefit of the doubt. I went back to my reports, tried to focus on load-bearing calculations, and almost managed to convince myself everything was fine. Then 2 p.m. rolled around like a wrecking ball aimed directly at my naive little heart. My phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram, her sister Becky's account, which I followed purely out of family obligation and not because I actually wanted to see 40 photos of her overpriced lattes and inspirational quotes about living your truth. But this wasn't a latte. This wasn't a quote. This was a full HD video that would have been better suited for a food magazine spread or perhaps as evidence in my upcoming divorce proceedings. The video panned across what can only be described as a dining setup that Martha Stewart would weep over. We're talking a full roasted turkey, golden, glistening, probably organic and free range, and personally blessed by a celebrity chef. There were cousins laughing like they were auditioning for a stock photo about family happiness. There were side dishes that could feed a small village. There was champagne. Champagne, the kind that comes in bottles, not boxes, which was already suspicious given our supposed financial situation. And there, right in the center of this Norman Rockwell painting come to life, was my wife Laura, my budget-conscious, vacation-canceling, we're so broke wife. She was wearing a floral dress that I'd definitely never seen before. The kind that makes you look like you're about to frolic through a meadow or star in a commercial about yogurt that makes you happy. Her hair was done. Her makeup was perfect. She was pouring champagne like she was celebrating the fact that her husband was home alone eating leftover pasta and contemplating his life choices. But here's the kicker. The caption that really twisted the knife and then set it on fire for good measure. Family only vacation. Nothing beats tradition. Turkey red heart sparkles. Family only. Family only. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't having a stroke. I checked my marriage certificate. Yep, still valid. I checked the calendar. Yep, still married. I checked my bank account. Yep, still funding this whole operation. But apparently somewhere in the fine print of our wedding vows, there was a clause that said family was a flexible term that could exclude the person legally bound to you when it was convenient for turkey dinners and Instagram content. I sat there at my desk, project reports forgotten, cold coffee mocking me, staring at this video of my wife living her best life at what was clearly not a budget-friendly gathering. The turkey alone probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The wine, forget about it. The matching floral arrangements on the table, someone had money to burn, and apparently that someone had been getting monthly deposits from yours truly, right? Guess I was just the +1 who expired. The family member with an asterisk. The husband except when there's a vacation involved. I replayed that video one more time just to make absolutely sure I wasn't hallucinating from too much engineering work and not enough vacation. Nope. Still there, still smiling. Still very much on a family vacation that I had been explicitly told we couldn't afford. And that's when I realized I wasn't having a budget crisis. I was having a clarity crisis because suddenly everything was becoming very, very clear. So here's the thing about betrayal in the digital age. It comes with receipts, high-definition time-stamped geo-tagged receipts that you can watch over and over again until you've memorized every soul-crushing detail. And that's exactly what I did with Becky's little vacation video. I replayed that sucker 12 times. 12. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not ashamed because each viewing revealed a new layer of what the actual hell that I'd somehow missed before. First viewing, shock. Second viewing, denial. Third through fifth, anger with a side of disbelief. 6 through 10, forensic analysis that would make a detective jealous. 11. Acceptance. 12. Pure unadulterated rage mixed with the kind of clarity you only get when you realize you've been played like a fiddle at a country music concert. I zoomed in on that video like I was enhancing evidence for a crime scene investigation, which, let's be honest, this basically was. There was my father-in-law, Richard, carving that turkey with the precision and showmanship of a Food Network host who definitely wasn't worried about money being too tight. He had this smile on his face, the kind of satisfied grin that comes from a man who's about to enjoy a meal he didn't have to budget for because some sucker, that would be me, had been padding his bank account every single month like clockwork. And there was Laura, my wonderful, budget-conscious we can't afford a vacation wife, pouring champagne like she was celebrating New Year's Eve at a 5-star resort. Not the cheap stuff either. I could tell from the bottle shape. We're talking the real deal. The kind that costs more per bottle than I spend on lunch for a week. Her hands weren't shaking with guilt. She wasn't looking around nervously wondering if her husband might see this. Nope. She was living in the moment, fully committed to this family-only experience, completely unbothered by the fact that she'd lied straight to my face 72 hours earlier. But the real kicker, the table, that glorious, abundant, absolutely not budget-friendly table. I zoomed in on the spread and started doing a mental inventory because that's what engineers do when we're spiraling. We quantify things. There was the turkey, obviously, which had to be at least 20 pounds of organic free-range, probably named it before the cooked poultry. There were side dishes that stretched from one end of the table to the other. Mashed potatoes that looked like they'd been whipped by angels. Green bean casserole. Sweet potato something or other with marshmallows on top. Cranberry sauce that was definitely homemade and not from a can like normal broke people use. And then I spotted the seafood. We're talking shrimp cocktail, crab legs, what looked like lobster tails just casually chilling there like they hadn't cost someone's entire paycheck. This table had more seafood than an ocean buffet at a Las Vegas casino. This was not the table of a family in financial crisis. This was the table of people who had money to burn and apparently no shame about burning it while telling me we needed to tighten our belts. Me? I was nowhere in that video. Not in the background, not at the table, not even mentioned in the caption. It was like I'd been photoshopped out of the family, except they didn't even need Photoshop because they just straight up not invited me. I didn't exist in their little vacation bubble. I was Schrodinger's husband, simultaneously married to Laura, and also completely irrelevant to family events. That's when I decided to do some investigating of my own because clearly I couldn't trust anyone to tell me the truth. I opened my banking app with the kind of dread you feel when you're about to confirm your worst suspicions. My hands were shaking a little, which annoyed me because I'm a grown man and I shouldn't be getting the stress tremors over a bank app, but here we were. I navigated to our joint account first, the one Laura and I supposedly shared for household expenses and mutual financial goals. Everything looked normal there. Mortgage payment, utilities, groceries, The usual stuff that keeps life running. But then I clicked over to my personal checking account, the one linked to my paycheck, and that's where things got interesting in the way that interesting actually means absolutely infuriating. There they were, lined up like little soldiers of financial deception. Recurring transfers. Every single month, like clockwork, $3,000 vanishing from my account. The category, family expenses. I scrolled back through the history. 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, $3,000, month after month after month, going to Laura's family. Not our family, not the mortgage or our future or our retirement or literally anything that benefited both of us, her family. I did the math because that's what you do when your entire reality is crumbling and you need something concrete to hold on to. 12 months time $3,000 equals $36,000 a year. 2 years, $72,000. That's a new car. That's a down payment on a second property. That's a retirement fund that could actually retire. That's 72,000 reasons why we supposedly couldn't afford a vacation while her family was out here living like they had won the lottery. They said money's too tight. But that table had more food on it than most people see at Thanksgiving. They said we needed to budget, but they were popping champagne bottles like they were celebrating something. They said family vacation was canceled, but what they meant was my inclusion in the family vacation was canceled while my bank account was still expected to show up and participate. I sat there staring at those transactions, feeling like the world's biggest idiot. How had I not noticed this before? How had I just blindly approved these transfers month after month without asking questions? Oh, right. Because I trusted my wife. Because I believed her when she said her parents needed help. Because I'm apparently the kind of person who gets taken advantage of and says, "Thank you. May I have another?" But not anymore. Oh, no. Not anymore. I was done being the ATM with a wedding ring. I was done funding vacations I wasn't invited to. I was done being the invisible family member whose only value was his direct deposit. So, I did what any calm, rational, definitely not having a breakdown husband would do. I clicked on every single one of those recurring transfers and hit cancel with the kind of satisfaction usually reserved for popping bubble wrap or watching your enemy trip in public. Cancel. 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 $3,000 a month. Terminated effective immediately. Then, because I'm petty and I was running on pure spite at this point, I renamed the transfer folder. Used to be labeled family support or something equally noble sounding. Now, for people who actually like me, I even added a little emoji, the shrug guy. If I was going to burn bridges, I might as well make them pretty. I leaned back in my chair, staring at my handiwork, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Powerful in control, like I'd just taken back a piece of myself that had been slowly bleeding out through monthly bank transfers and lies disguised as budget concerns. My phone buzzed with a notification, probably another Instagram update from the family-only vacation. I didn't even look at it. I didn't need to. I'd seen everything I needed to see. I'd learned everything I needed to learn. And most importantly, I'd done everything I needed to do. The turkey was carved. The champagne was poured. And my automatic payments were canceled. Let's see how long the party lasts when the money train pulls into reality station. I closed my laptop, grabbed my cold coffee, and took a sip, even though it tasted like bitter regret and old dreams. Seemed appropriate. Everything else in my life had gone cold. Might as well commit to the theme. $3,000 a month gone just like that. And you know what? It felt absolutely fantastic. 3 days. That's how long it took for the consequences of my financial independence to come knocking. 3 glorious, peaceful days where I went to work, came home, made myself dinner without consulting anyone about budgets, and slept like a man who'd finally canceled his subscription to a service he never wanted in the first place. I was living my best life, or at least a significantly less financially abused version of it. I should have known the peace wouldn't last. Peace never lasts when you've cut off someone's money supply. It's like cutting the power to a house. Eventually, someone's going to notice the lights don't work anymore and come asking questions. In this case, that someone was Laura, and those questions came in the form of a text message that popped up on my phone while I was in the middle of a meeting about load-bearing structures. Ironic considering I'd just stopped being everyone's emotional and financial load-bearer. My phone buzzed on the conference table and I glanced down out of habit. The preview was enough to make me smile in a way that probably concerned my coworkers. "Hey babe, can you Venmo me $3,000? Urgent. Urgent." That was rich. Everything was always urgent when it came to her family's needs. But apparently inviting me to family gatherings was more of a whenever we feel like it kind of situation, which is to say never. I excused myself from the meeting, walked out into the hallway, and just stared at that text message like it was a piece of modern art. I was trying to understand the audacity, the sheer unfiltered audacity of this woman to ask me for $3,000 after what had happened. But here's the thing about having your eyes open to manipulation. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That text message wasn't a request from my loving wife who needed help. It was a transaction request from someone who'd gotten used to me being a human ATM and was now confused about why the machine wasn't dispensing cash anymore. And you know what? I was done being a machine. I was done being convenient. I was done being the solution to problems I didn't create and apparently wasn't important enough to be included in the celebrations that my money funded. So, I smiled. Not a happy smile, more like the smile of a man who's about to watch karma do its thing in real time. I typed out my response with the kind of care and precision I usually reserve for engineering calculations. Every word mattered. Every period was placed with intention. This was going to be good. Ask the family you chose. 6 words, simple, direct, packed with more meaning than a philosophy textbook. I hit send and felt a rush of satisfaction that probably wasn't healthy, but felt absolutely amazing. Anyway, it was like finally saying the thing you've been thinking for years, but were too polite to verbalize. Well, guess what? I was done being polite. Polite got me excluded from vacations while my bank account got a front row seat. I watched the message change from delivered to read in real time. Then I watched as those 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, disappeared again. She was typing and deleting, typing and deleting. I could practically feel her confusion through the phone. This wasn't how things usually went. Usually, I just said, "Sure, babe," and moved the money without question, like the good little ATM I was supposed to be. 30 seconds later, I know because I counted because I'm petty like that. My phone started vibrating in my hand. Laura was calling. Of course, she was calling. Text messages are easy to ignore or misinterpret, but a phone call, that's when you know someone's really confused or really angry or both. I let it ring twice before answering just to make her sweat a little. Is that childish? Absolutely. Do I care? Not even a little bit. Hello, I answered using my most casual voice like I hadn't just dropped a bomb on our entire financial arrangement. What does that mean? Her voice was sharp with an edge of panic that honestly felt like music to my ears. Not because I wanted her to panic, but because it meant she was finally understanding that something had fundamentally changed. I could have played dumb. I could have pretended I didn't know what she was talking about. But where's the fun in that? Where's the growth? Where's the standing up for yourself and refusing to be treated like a second-class citizen in your own marriage? It means, I said, keeping my voice calm and level like I was explaining a basic engineering concept to a first-year student. I finally took your budgeting advice. I'm tightening things up, too. You know, being fiscally responsible, cutting unnecessary expenses, all that good stuff you were so concerned about 3 days ago when you told me we couldn't afford a vacation. The silence on the other end of the line was beautiful. And I mean beautiful in the way that silence can be when it's filled with the sound of someone's entire worldview crashing down around them. It was the silence of realization, of consequences meeting actions, of the chickens coming home to roost and finding out the coop had been foreclosed. You can't be serious, she finally said, and I could hear her trying to figure out if I was joking. Spoiler alert, I wasn't joking. I'd never been more serious about anything in my entire life, including my wedding vows, which apparently meant more to me than they did to her. Oh, I'm absolutely serious, I replied. And I was still smiling even though she couldn't see it. Maybe she could hear it in my voice, though. That edge of satisfaction that comes from finally standing up for yourself after being stepped on for way too long. See, I did some thinking after you canceled our vacation due to budget concerns. I thought, you know what? She's right. We should be more careful with money. We should really examine where our dollars are going and whether those expenses are actually benefiting us. Both of us together as a married couple. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Quick and shallow. The kind of breathing that happens when someone's getting angry or stressed or both. Good. Let her feel a fraction of what I felt watching that video of the family vacation. I apparently wasn't family enough to attend. So, I looked at our accounts. I continued really getting into it now and I found some interesting recurring expenses. $3,000 a month interesting going to your family every single month for years funding lake houses and turkey dinners and champagne brunches and apparently vacations that I'm not invited to because money's too tight. That's different. She started but I cut her off because nope, we weren't doing this. We weren't doing the thing where she tried to justify or explain or make excuses for why it was totally fine to lie to my face and exclude me from family events while draining my bank account. It's not different, I said, my voice harder now. It's exactly the same. It's money leaving our household. Money that could have paid for the vacation you canceled. Money that could have done a lot of things, but instead it paid for a party I wasn't invited to. And honestly, I'm done paying for parties I'm not invited to. I'm done funding a family that doesn't consider me family. More silence. This one felt different though. Less shocked, more angry. I could practically hear her gearing up for a fight, getting ready to throw out all the usual arguments about how her parents needed help, about family obligations, about how I was being selfish and cruel, and probably several other things that would be designed to make me feel guilty and reverse my decision. But here's the thing about clarity. Once you have it, it's really hard to guilt trip someone back into ignorance. So, to answer your original question, I said, wrapping this up before she could launch into whatever speech she was preparing, no, I won't Venmo you $3,000. Not today, not tomorrow, not until someone can explain to me why I'm family enough to fund vacations, but not family enough to attend them. Ask the people you actually chose to spend time with. Ask the family that was important enough to include in your family-only vacation. I'm sure they've got the money. I've been sending it to them for years. Her voice came back cold and sharp. You're being ridiculous. This is about my parents potentially losing their house. Then maybe I interrupted. They should have thought about that before planning an expensive vacation and posting about it on social media. Just a thought, you know, from someone who actually understands budgeting. I hung up before she could respond. Just pressed that red button and ended the call. And let me tell you, it felt incredible. It felt like reclaiming power I'd given away without even realizing it. It felt like respect, self-respect, the kind you can only get when you finally stop letting people treat you like you're optional. My phone immediately started buzzing again. Laura calling back, probably ready to really lay into me now. I declined the call. She called again, declined. Again, declined. After the fourth attempt, I just turned my phone to silent and went back to my meeting about load-bearing structures. Turns out, I just tested my own load-bearing capacity. And guess what? I was stronger than I thought. You know what's wild about people who get caught doing shady things? They don't apologize. They don't acknowledge what they did wrong. No, they gaslight you so hard you start wondering if maybe you're the crazy one for being upset about it. And Laura, oh, she had a PhD in gaslighting that I swear she earned somewhere between our wedding day and the turkey dinner I wasn't invited to. She came home that evening acting like nothing had happened. Not like, oops, we had a fight. Let me ease back in a normal conversation. Nothing happened. I mean, full-on Oscar-worthy performance of a woman who genuinely believed that if she just acted normal enough, reality would bend to accommodate her delusion. She walked through the door, dropped her purse on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and said, I kid you not. What do you want for dinner? I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, pretending to work, but actually scrolling through job listings in cities far away from this circus. I looked up at her like she just asked me to solve a quantum physics equation using only interpretive dance. Excuse me, dinner, she repeated. Opening the fridge like this was just another Tuesday and not the day she tried to Venmo shake me down for $3,000 after excluding me from a family vacation. I was thinking maybe we could do that pasta thing you like, the one with the garlic. And you're joking, right? I closed my laptop and just stared at her. You're actually standing there asking me about pasta like you didn't just get caught lying to my face about budget issues while vacationing with your family on my dime? She sighed. Actually sighed like I was the one being difficult, like I was the problem here. She closed the fridge door and turned to face me with this expression that I can only describe as patient mother dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum. You're overreacting, she said. And those two words right there, that's how I knew we were entering the gaslight zone. You're overreacting is the battle cry of people who know they messed up but are hoping you'll doubt yourself enough to let it slide. Overreacting, I repeated, tasting the word like it was something rotten. I'm overreacting. That's your take on this situation. It was a small family thing, she continued, moving into the living room like she was going to sit down next to me and have a reasonable conversation. I shifted away before she could get too close. I wasn't falling for the physical proximity trick, the one where she sits next to me and touches my arm. And suddenly, I'm supposed to forget that I have a functioning brain. You hate crowded places anyway. I thought I was doing you a favor. A favor? She thought excluding me from a family vacation I'd been funding for 2 years was a favor. This woman really said that out loud with her whole chest and expected me to nod along like it made sense. Oh, right, I said, my voice dripping with enough sarcasm to corrode metal. I must have missed the survey where you asked if I wanted to be excluded. You know, the one where you consulted me about whether I'd prefer to stay home working while you all lived it up on my monthly $3,000 donations. That survey. Refresh my memory. When did I fill that out? She rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes at me like I was being absurd. Don't be dramatic. You were working. You told me you picked up extra shifts. I didn't want to disturb you with family stuff when you were so busy being responsible. There it was. The twist, the spin. Suddenly, my decision to work extra, a decision I made because she told me we couldn't afford a vacation, was being used as justification for why they didn't invite me to the vacation we supposedly couldn't afford. It was beautiful in a horrifying kind of way, like watching someone build a house of cards during an earthquake and insisting it's structurally sound. You disturb me anyway, I said, leaning forward digitally on Becky's Instagram. You know the post with the caption "family only vacation"? That one disturbed me quite a bit. Actually really interrupted my workflow when I saw my wife pouring champagne at a feast that could feed a small nation while I was eating leftover pizza because we're supposedly broke. She had the audacity to look annoyed. Not guilty. Not apologetic. Annoyed. So this is what this is about. Social media. You're punishing my entire family because of an Instagram caption. No, I said, standing up because I needed the height advantage for this conversation. I'm stopping financial support to people who don't consider me family. There's a difference, a pretty significant one, actually. One involves punishment. The other involves basic self-respect and financial boundaries. That's when she switched tactics. I could see it happening in real time, like watching someone change lanes without signaling. Her face shifted from annoyed to concerned. Her voice got softer, and here came the guilt trip I'd been waiting for. My parents could lose their house if you stopped sending money, she said quietly. And there were actual tears forming in her eyes. Actual tears for a house that her parents apparently had enough money to leave for a luxury vacation, but not enough money to maintain without my monthly contributions. Make it make sense. I wanted to feel bad. Part of me, the part that had been conditioned over years of marriage to prioritize her feelings over my own dignity, wanted to cave right there. Wanted to say, okay, you're right. I'll turn the transfers back on. But then I remembered the turkey, the champagne, the lobster tails, the caption, the lies. Oh, no, I said, and I made sure my voice was loaded with the most theatrical concern I could muster. I even put my hand over my heart for dramatic effect. Maybe they can Airbnb that dining room they used for my funeral. You know, the one where you all gathered to celebrate family while I was dead to you. That dining room, I bet it's nice. Probably has good natural lighting for Instagram photos. Should rent for a decent price. Her tears dried up real quick after that. Funny how that happens. That's not fair. She snapped. We weren't celebrating your absence. We were just having a normal family gathering. With a family-only caption. I reminded her, let's not forget that part. The part where you specifically clarified that this event was for family only, which apparently I'm not, despite being legally bound to you in a relationship that's supposed to make us, you know, family. You're twisting everything, she said. And now her voice was rising. Good. Let it rise. Let her get angry. At least anger was honest. Unlike whatever performance she'd been attempting when she walked through the door asking about pasta. I'm not twisting anything. I shot back. I'm just reading what you wrote. Family only. Your words, not mine. Posted publicly for everyone to see, including me. The guy who's been bankrolling your family's lifestyle for years. I'm sorry if the truth is inconvenient for you, but that's kind of how truth works. She tried a different approach, softening again. Everyone regrets not inviting you now. They feel terrible about it. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud because that was genuinely funny. Sure they do. I bet they're just devastated. Crying into their lobster tails. Weeping over their champagne flutes. So overcome with regret that they what? Called to apologize, texted me directly, sent a carrier pigeon with a note that says, sorry we treated you like garbage. Or did they just express these regrets to you in private while hoping the money train would start running again? She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. That's what I thought. I said, people regret things when the ATM stops working. It's amazing how quickly family values return when the cash flow dries up. Really restores your faith in humanity, doesn't it? You're being cruel, she said. And there was real hurt in her voice. Now, part of me felt bad about that. But the bigger part of me, the part that had watched that vacation video 12 times and counted every dollar I'd sent to people who didn't value me, didn't feel bad at all. I'm being honest. I corrected. There's a difference. Cruel would be continuing to fund a family that excludes me and then pretending everything's fine. Cruel would be lying to your face about budget concerns while planning expensive vacations. Cruel would be posting family-only captions about events funded by someone you don't consider family enough to invite. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the guy who's apparently been overreacting this whole time. She started crying again. Real tears this time, not the tactical ones from earlier. She sank onto the couch and put her face in her hands and her shoulders shook with genuine sobs. And I almost felt bad enough to take it all back. Almost wanted to sit next to her and say, okay, let's talk about this rationally. Then I remembered the video caption one more time. Family only. 2 words that had fundamentally redefined my understanding of my place in this marriage. Apparently, my marriage license didn't count as family credentials. Apparently, years of financial support and emotional investment didn't earn me a seat at the table. Apparently, I was family when it came to bills and responsibilities, but not when it came to belonging and celebration. I'm going to bed, I said quietly. In the guest room, you can have the master bedroom to yourself tonight. Consider it practice for what life looks like when you choose everyone else over your spouse. I walked away while she was still crying, and I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much about myself to keep accepting less than I deserved. The Gaslight Gala was over. The performance had ended and I for once was leaving the theater before the encore. You ever notice how when someone messes up, they don't just apologize themselves? No. They activate their entire social network like they're launching a military campaign. They deploy the troops. They call in reinforcements. They turn damage control into a group project. And Laura's family. They had apparently decided that Operation Get the Money Back required a full-scale coordinated effort involving every single person who'd enjoyed the turkey dinner at my expense. It started the next morning. I was barely awake, coffee still brewing, when my phone started buzzing like it had developed a nervous disorder. First text, Becky. Second text, her husband, Ronnie. Third call, Laura's mom, Janice. It was like they'd had a conference call the night before and divided up the manipulation duties. Okay, Becky, you take the casual approach. Ronnie, you go for the bro angle. Mom, you bring out the heavy guilt. Ready? Break. I let the first few calls go to voicemail because I'm not a masochist, and I was genuinely curious what kind of messages they'd leave. Becky's was first, and it was a masterpiece of fake casual concern. Hey, just wanted to check in. Laura mentioned you guys had a little disagreement. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Call me back when you get a chance. A little disagreement, right? Like the Titanic had a little water problem. Like Pompeii had a minor volcanic incident. Minimizing my completely justified anger into a little disagreement was so perfectly on brand for this family that I almost had to admire the audacity. But I didn't call back. Instead, I waited to see what the rest of the PR team would do. Ronnie texted next. Yo man, heard things got heated. Wanna grab a beer and talk it out? Yes, the bro approach. Let's grab a beer and you can explain to me why I'm wrong while pretending we're just 2 guys being guys. Never mind that Ronnie had been at that vacation dinner eating food I'd indirectly paid for. Not saying a word about how maybe they should invite the guy whose money made it possible. But sure, let's grab a beer now that the funding's dried up. What perfect timing. I ignored that, too. My coffee finished brewing and I poured myself a cup, savoring the fact that this was my coffee bought with my money in my kitchen without anyone telling me we couldn't afford the good beans. Small victories, people. Small victories. Then Janice called. Laura's mother, the matriarch, the final boss of the guilt trip dungeon. I knew I had to answer this one because if I didn't, she'd just keep calling until I did. And I had to work today and couldn't spend 8 hours declining calls from a woman who'd perfected the art of making you feel terrible for having boundaries. I answered on the 4th ring. Hello, Janice. Sweetheart, she started, and I already knew where this was going because she only called me sweetheart when she wanted something or was about to make me feel guilty about something. I heard about the situation with Laura. I just wanted to call and clear the air. Clear the air, I repeated, taking a sip of my coffee. It was good coffee. Really good. The kind you can afford when you're not sending $3,000 a month to people who don't invite you to their parties. Sure, let's clear it. You go first. There was a pause like she hadn't expected me to be this direct. Good. Keep them off balance. That's my new strategy in life. Well, she continued, and I could hear her gathering her thoughts, probably running through the speech she'd prepared. I want you to know that what happened wasn't personal. It truly wasn't. We never meant to hurt you. You never meant to hurt me, I said slowly. But you did exclude me from a family vacation while telling me that we couldn't afford said vacation. All while I've been sending you $3,000 a month for 2 years. So, while it may not have been personal, it was definitely intentional. There's a difference. We just thought, she started, but I cut her off because no, we weren't doing the we just thought excuse. That's the cousin of we meant well and the sibling of you're overreacting. You thought wrong. I said flatly. You thought I'd be fine with it. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd keep sending money regardless of how you treated me. And you know what? That's on me. I'll let you think that. I'll let you all think I was fine being the invisible checkbook. But that's changing now. Families make mistakes, Janice said, deploying the heavy artillery. The family card. The oldest trick in the manipulation handbook. We all make mistakes. What's important is that we move forward together. I had to laugh at that one. Actually laugh out loud. Right there in my kitchen holding my excellent coffee that I'd bought with money that used to go to these people. Families make mistakes. I repeated. You're absolutely right, Janice. Mistake is forgetting to buy milk. Mistake is double booking a dinner reservation. Mistake is accidentally sending an email to the wrong person. You know what's not a mistake? Planning an entire vacation, filming it, posting it on social media with a family-only caption, and then asking the person you excluded for $3,000 3 days later. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern of behavior. Silence on the other end. I was on a roll now, and honestly, it felt incredible. All these years of biting my tongue, of being the good son-in-law, of not making waves, it was all coming out now like water through a broken dam. And you want to talk about moving forward together? I continued, where was that energy when you were planning the vacation? Where was the together when you were carving turkey and popping champagne? Where was the family unity when Laura was telling me we couldn't afford to take time off while you all were literally on vacation? It's funny how together only matters when you need something from me. You're being unfair, Janice said, and her voice had an edge now. The sweetness was wearing off, revealing the manipulation underneath like cheap paint peeling off a wall. Richard and I could lose everything if you stop helping us. Then maybe, I said, and I made sure my voice was crystal clear so she couldn't misunderstand a single word. You should have thought about that before planning an expensive vacation and posting about it on Instagram for everyone to see, including me. Just a thought, you know, from someone who actually understands what financial responsibility looks like. We're family, she said, playing the card again like it was a magic spell that would make me forget everything that had happened. No, I corrected her. You're Laura's family. I'm apparently just the guy who pays for stuff and I'm done with that role. I'm done being the ATM with a wedding ring. I'm done financing a family that doesn't consider me family enough to include in their celebrations. I'm done pretending that my feelings don't matter as long as my direct deposit shows up on time. So what? Janice's voice turned cold now. You're just going to abandon us after everything we've done for you. And there it was, the final form, the ultimate guilt trip, the after everything we've done for you card, which is particularly hilarious when you consider that the main thing they'd done for me was accept my money every month without question. What exactly have you done for me, Janice? I asked, genuinely curious. Please enlighten me. Because from where I'm sitting, I've sent you $72,000 over the past 2 years, and in return, I got excluded from family events and lied to about budget issues. So, please itemize for me what you've done that somehow balances that equation. She sputtered. Actually sputtered. We welcomed you into the family. We included you in holidays. You included me in holidays when it was convenient. I interrupted. You welcomed me into the family as long as I was useful. And the second you had a vacation you actually wanted to enjoy. Suddenly I wasn't family enough to invite. So forgive me if I'm not overwhelmed with gratitude for the privilege of funding my own exclusion. I can't believe you're being this selfish. She said. Wow, the projection was strong with this one. I was being selfish. Me, the guy who'd been hemorrhaging money to support people who didn't value him. That was rich. I'm not being selfish. I said calmly. I'm being rational. I'm allocating my resources to people and things that actually value me. That's not selfishness. That's basic self-respect. Something I should have developed years ago, but better late than never, right? Don't come crying to us when you need family support, Janice said. And I could tell she meant it as a threat. But honestly, it sounded like a promise of peace. I won't, I assured her. Don't worry, I'll remember exactly who considered me family and who didn't when I needed support. Thanks for making that distinction so clear. I hung up before she could respond. Didn't even say goodbye. Just pressed that red button and ended the call. And it felt like closing a chapter in a book I never wanted to read in the first place. The phone immediately rang again. Becky, I declined. Ronnie declined. Laura calling from work. Declined. It was like playing whack-a-mole with people who suddenly cared about my feelings now that the money had stopped flowing. I silenced my phone, finished my coffee, and got ready for work. As I was leaving, I saw a group text had started in the family chat, the one I was still somehow included in despite not being family-only vacation material. I opened it against my better judgment. Messages from everyone. Becky, can't believe he's doing this. Ronnie, so ungrateful. Janice, we gave him everything. Richard, Laura's dad, finally chiming in. He'll come around. He always does. I typed out one message to the group. I can see all of these, by the way. And for the record, you didn't give me everything. I gave you everything. $72,000 to be exact. You gave me a family-only vacation caption and a masterclass in conditional acceptance. Not exactly a fair trade. Then I left the group chat entirely. Deleted. Gone. Bye. As I drove to work, my phone kept buzzing with individual messages, but I didn't look. I had work to do, a life to rebuild, and exactly zero interest in being the family PR team's rehabilitation project. They wanted me back. They could start by actually treating me like family. Until then, they could figure out their own budget crisis without my help. Funny how that worked out. A week passed. 7 glorious days of silence from the family PR team. 7 days of me actually enjoying my paycheck. 7 days of sleeping in the guest room because Laura and I were in this weird limbo where we lived in the same house but existed in completely different realities. She kept trying to act like everything was fine while simultaneously giving me the cold shoulder, which is a special kind of cognitive dissonance that probably deserves its own psychology term. Then on day 8, Laura tried again, and this time she came armed with what I can only describe as full rom-com mode. I came home from work to find candles lit in the living room. The expensive ones that smell like bergamot and regret or whatever. And dinner was already made, not takeout. Actual homemade dinner, the kind she used to make when we were dating. And she was trying to convince me she was wife material. She was wearing the dress. You know the one. Every guy knows the one. The dress that's supposed to make you forget every argument you've ever had and turn your brain into smooth mush that just agrees with everything. She'd done her hair, put on makeup, and was smiling at me like we were about to have a romantic evening, and not like we were in the middle of the worst marital crisis of our relationship. Hey, babe, she said, all sweet and soft. I made your favorite. Thought we could have a nice dinner together and talk. I stood in the doorway, briefcase still in hand, looking at this whole setup like it was a crime scene I was trying to piece together. The candles, the dress, the food, the smile. It was all evidence of a woman who thought she could seduce me back into financial submission. And the sad part, a month ago, it probably would have worked. We can talk without the candles, I said, setting my briefcase down. And I'm not really hungry. Her smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. Props for resilience, I guess. Come on, just sit with me, please. I really want to make things right. Against my better judgment, and probably because some part of me still loved this woman despite everything, I sat down at the table. She served me a plate of chicken parmesan, which was indeed my favorite, and poured me a glass of wine that probably cost more than it should have given our supposed budget constraints. Babe, she started, and I could tell she'd rehearsed this. Her voice had that carefully modulated quality of someone who'd practiced in front of a mirror. We just wanted one peaceful trip without stress. That's all it was. It wasn't about you. I took a sip of wine. It was good wine. Of course it was. So I'm stressed now, I asked, keeping my voice even. Is that what I am to your family? The stressful element that needed to be removed for everyone to have a good time. No, that's not what I meant, she backtracked quickly. But I wasn't letting this go. Should I start charging rent for the emotional space I take up? I continued, putting down my wine glass. You know, since I'm apparently such a burden on everyone's good time, maybe I can Venmo you monthly payments for the stress I cause by existing in your family orbit. She reached across the table to take my hand, but I pulled away. Not aggressively, just enough to make it clear that physical contact wasn't going to fix this. Her face fell, and I almost felt bad. Everyone regrets not inviting you, she said. And there was real emotion in her voice now. Not the rehearsed kind, but actual feeling. My mom feels terrible. Becky's been crying. Even my dad said he wishes things had gone differently. Sure they do. I said, picking up my fork, but not actually eating anything. People regret things when the ATM stops working. It's like clockwork. Funny how the guilt only shows up when the money disappears. Really makes you think about what people actually value, doesn't it? That's not fair, Laura said. And her eyes were getting watery now. They genuinely feel bad. They want to make it right. Make it right how? I asked, leaning back in my chair. By apologizing? By feeling bad? By lighting some candles and making chicken parmesan and hoping I'll forget that my wife looked me in the eye and said we couldn't afford a vacation while planning to go on one without me. What exactly makes this right, Laura? She started crying. Real tears this time, not the tactical ones from before. They rolled down her cheeks and dripped onto her untouched dinner plate, and I watched it happen with a weird detachment, like I was observing a scientific experiment instead of my marriage falling apart. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I was wrong. We were all wrong. I should have invited you. I should have told the truth. I should have valued you more than I valued keeping the peace with my family." And you know what? I almost believed her. Almost let those tears soften me up. Almost reached across the table and said it was okay. We could work through this. Almost fell back into the pattern of prioritizing her feelings over my own self-respect. Then I remembered the video caption. Family only. 2 words that were permanently burned into my brain like a brand. "You're sorry because I cut off the money," I said quietly. "Not because you hurt me. Not because you lied. Not because you excluded me. You're sorry because there are consequences now, and consequences are uncomfortable." "That's not true," she insisted, wiping at her tears with her napkin. "I'm sorry because I love you and I hurt you and I hate that I did that." "Do you though?" I asked. And I genuinely wanted to know. "Do you love me or do you love what I provide? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like I'm valued for my paycheck and tolerated for everything else. And I've got to tell you, that's not what I signed up for when I said I do." She was full on crying now, shoulders shaking, mascara running, the whole dramatic scene. And part of me, the part that had loved her for 5 years, that had married her, that had built a life with her, wanted to comfort her, wanted to be the bigger person and forgive and move forward. But the bigger part of me, the part that had finally woken up after years of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own marriage, just sat there and watched. Because you know what? My feelings mattered, too. My hurt mattered too, and I was tired of being the one who always had to be understanding while everyone else got to be selfish. "Everyone regrets it," she said again through her tears. "Like repetition would make it more meaningful. We all wish we could take it back." "I bet you do," I said. "I bet you regret it so much. But here's the thing about regret. It doesn't actually change what happened. It doesn't erase the lie. It doesn't unexclude me from that vacation. It doesn't take back the family-only caption. It just means you feel bad now that there are consequences and I'm supposed to what? Pat you on the head and say they're there. At least you feel bad about it. What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Tell me what I can do to fix this. Tell me what you need." What did I want? That was the question, wasn't it? What could possibly make this right? An apology? Already had that. Didn't fix anything. Money back. I didn't want money back. I wanted respect. Time travel not possible, unfortunately. "I want you to understand," I said finally, "that you can't treat someone like they're optional and then act surprised when they stop showing up. I want you to understand that love isn't just words and candles and chicken parmesan. It's actions. It's choices. It's choosing to include your partner even when it's inconvenient. It's being honest even when the truth is uncomfortable. It's treating them like they matter. Not just when you need something, but all the time." She nodded, still crying, probably agreeing with everything I said because that's what you do when you're desperate to fix something you broke. "And I want you to understand," I continued, "that I'm not a bank. I'm not an ATM. I'm not a financial resource to be managed and manipulated. I'm a person with feelings and boundaries and self-respect that I'm just now starting to find again after years of letting your family treat me like garbage." While I smiled and sent them money. "I know," she whispered. "I know all of that now. I see it. I'm sorry I didn't see it before." I stood up from the table, my dinner completely untouched. The candles were still burning, making the whole scene feel like a funeral for our marriage instead of a romantic dinner. "The thing about learning lessons," I said, "is that they're a lot more expensive when you learn them late. You could have learned this lesson years ago if you just treated me like I mattered. But you didn't. You learned it now because I finally stood up for myself. And I'm not sure that's the same thing as genuine growth." "Where are you going?" she asked as I grabbed my briefcase. "Guest room," I said. "Same place I've been sleeping all week. Because apparently marriage vows don't count as family credentials in this house." I left her there with her candles and her tears and her chicken parmesan. And I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because caring about myself had to come first for once. In the guest room, I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't feel angry. I just felt tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of explaining. Tired of being the one who had to justify why I deserved basic respect and inclusion. My phone buzzed. A text from Laura. "I really am sorry. I love you." I looked at it for a long time before responding. Love without respect isn't love. It's just manipulation in a prettier package. She didn't text back after that. And honestly, the silence was kind of nice because peace, I was learning, wasn't about candles and apologies. It was about finally valuing yourself enough to walk away from people who didn't. Turns out $3,000 a month is a lot of money. I know, shocking revelation, right? But apparently Laura's family hadn't quite grasped this concept until the checks stopped clearing and reality came knocking at their door like a very aggressive bill collector. And let me tell you, watching the dominoes fall from my position of newly discovered financial independence was more entertaining than anything Netflix had to offer. It started small little things I noticed through the social media grapevine that I was still technically connected to, even though I'd muted most of them. Becky posted something about tightening the belt and getting back to basics, which was hilarious, coming from a woman who'd posted 17 different brunch photos in the last month alone. Her husband, Ronnie, the guy who'd wanted to grab a beer and talk it out, suddenly had his golf clubs listed on Facebook Marketplace. The same golf clubs he'd bragged about buying just 3 months ago. Premium set, barely used, priced to sell fast. Real fast. Then came the bigger stuff. Laura's parents, Richard and Janice, the king and queen of We Might Lose Everything, listed their lake cabin, the lake cabin they bought 2 years ago, the one they'd used for weekend getaways and family gatherings, and apparently the vacation I wasn't invited to. The listing went up on a Tuesday, and by Friday, Laura was having what can only be described as a complete meltdown in our kitchen. "They're selling the cabin," she said like she was announcing someone had died. "The cabin where we spent every summer, where we made memories. Where I sent $3,000 a month to help maintain." I finished for her, not looking up from my laptop, where I was researching vacation destinations for one, that cabin. She glared at me like I just kicked a puppy. "You're enjoying this." "I'm not enjoying anything," I said, which was partially true. I wasn't enjoying her pain. But was I feeling a deep sense of satisfaction watching natural consequences play out for people who treated me like garbage? Absolutely. I'm just observing. There's a difference. "They're losing everything because of you," she said, and the accusation in her voice was thick enough to cut with a knife. I closed my laptop and gave her my full attention because this needed to be said clearly. "No, they're losing things because they made financial decisions based on income they didn't earn. They built a lifestyle on someone else's money, mine specifically, and didn't plan for what would happen if that money stopped. That's not on me. That's on them. That's called poor financial planning. And ironically, it's exactly what you accused us of having when you canceled our vacation." She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't done. "And let's be real here," I continued. "They're not losing everything. They're selling a vacation cabin, a luxury property, a second home that they bought with money I was sending them while telling me we couldn't afford a vacation. Do you hear yourself right now? Do you hear how absolutely ridiculous this sounds?" She didn't answer, just stood there with tears forming in her eyes again, and I was honestly getting tired of the waterworks. Crying had been her go-to strategy for weeks now, and it had stopped working around day 3. Meanwhile, I was living my best life. And by best life, I mean I was finally experiencing what it felt like to keep my own money. Without that monthly $3,000 drain, my bank account was actually growing. Revolutionary concept, I know. I'd look at my balance and just smile. Sometimes I'd transfer money into savings just for the thrill of it. Sometimes I'd buy the expensive coffee beans without checking the price first. Sometimes I'd order dinner from the nice restaurant instead of eating leftovers. And every single time I felt a little more free at work, things were actually getting better, too. My colleague Mike noticed the change first. "Dude, you seem different lately," he said during lunch one day. "Like lighter or something. Did you start meditating?" "Nah," I said, biting into my sandwich. A really good sandwich from the deli I usually avoided because it was too expensive. I just cut off some toxic expenses. Freed up a lot of resources. "Smart man," Mike said. "Cutting expenses is good financial planning." "Yeah," I agreed, smiling. "That's what I keep telling people. Funny how it only counts as good planning when it's not affecting them personally." My boss even noticed during my quarterly review. She said, "I don't know what's changed, but your work has been exceptional lately. You seem more focused, more confident. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Just practicing better boundaries." I told her. "Turns out when you stop letting people drain your energy, you have more of it for things that actually matter." She nodded approvingly. Good leadership skill. Knowing when to say no is just as important as knowing when to say yes. Best performance review of my life. And all I had to do was stop funding my own emotional abuse. Who knew? But back at home, the atmosphere was getting increasingly tense. Laura was caught between defending her family and acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, they'd screwed up. She'd go back and forth, sometimes trying to guilt me, sometimes trying to seduce me, sometimes just crying at random intervals like a sprinkler system with faulty wiring. The family group chat that I'd left, apparently, it had turned into a full-blown crisis management center. Laura would read messages from it out loud to me like I was supposed to care. Becky says they might have to take the kids out of private school, she announced one evening. Public school is free and perfectly adequate. I replied without looking up from my book. Millions of kids go to public school and turn out fine. It's not a tragedy, it's a budget adjustment. My mom says they can't afford their mortgage payment this month. Then maybe they should downsize to something within their actual means instead of living in a house they can only afford with my monthly donations. Ronnie lost his job. That one made me look up. Ronnie lost his job, or Ronnie got fired for selling golf clubs during work hours on Facebook Marketplace. She didn't answer, which was an answer. 2 months passed like this. 2 months of watching Laura's family scramble to adjust to a lifestyle they could actually afford instead of the one they'd been living on my dime. 2 months of increasingly desperate attempts to get me to turn the money back on. 2 months of me sleeping better than I had in years. Then came the group text, not to the family chat I'd left, but directly to my phone from Janice. "We hope you're happy. You broke this family." I stared at that text for a solid minute, feeling absolutely nothing. No guilt, no regret, no sadness, just a kind of peaceful certainty that I'd made the right choice. I typed back slowly, making sure every word was exactly what I wanted to say. I didn't break it. I just stopped financing the glue. The responses came fast and furious after that. "Becky, that's so cruel." "Ronnie, real mature man." "Richard, we took you in like a son." "Janice, after everything we did for you," I responded to the group. "You didn't take me in like a son. You took me in like a bank. There's a difference. And what you did for me was accept $72,000 over 2 years while excluding me from family events. That's not generosity. That's exploitation. But sure, call it revenge if it makes you feel better. I call it budgeting." Then I muted all of them. Every single one. Didn't block them, just muted because I wanted them to be able to see that their messages were being delivered but ignored. Small petty. Absolutely satisfying. You have no idea. At work, they'd started calling me Mr. Financial Freedom. It started as a joke when I showed up with expensive coffee one morning and Mike said, "Whoa, look at Mr. Moneybags over here." But then I explained the whole situation, the family, the vacation, the exclusion, the $3,000 a month, and suddenly everyone was on my side. "Dude, you're a legend," Mike said. "You literally cut off toxic expenses and improved your life. That's not revenge. That's financial literacy." Even my boss, when she overheard part of the conversation, chimed in, "Cutting off toxic expenses is exactly what we teach in leadership training. Doesn't matter if it's a bad vendor or a bad relationship. If something's draining resources without providing value, you eliminate it." "See," I said to Mike, "it's not petty, it's business, it's both." Mike laughed. "But mostly, it's awesome." I'd never felt more validated in my life. At work, I was getting praised for the same decision that Laura's family was calling cruel and vengeful. Funny how perspective works, isn't it? When you're the one losing free money, it's a tragedy. When you're the one finally keeping your own money, it's called self-respect. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went shopping for myself. Not for the house, not for Laura, not for us, just for me. I bought new clothes that actually fit instead of wearing the same stuff from 5 years ago. I bought a new watch that I'd been eyeing for months, but always talked myself out of because money was tight. I bought a gaming console that I'd wanted since college, but never justified because there were always family expenses that took priority. I came home with bags of stuff, and Laura looked at me like I'd committed a crime. "You went shopping?" she asked, staring at the bags like they contained evidence of my moral failure. "Yep," I said cheerfully. "Turns out I have disposable income now." Wild, right? It's almost like when you stop giving away $3,000 a month, you can actually afford things. "That money could have helped my family," she said quietly. "That money is helping someone who actually values me." I corrected me. I value me. Revolutionary concept, I know, but I'm really enjoying it. She didn't say anything else. Just watched as I unpacked my purchases. Each item a small declaration of independence from a family that had taken me for granted for years. That night, lying in my guest room bed, which I'd upgraded with new sheets because why not? I calculated my savings. In 2 months, I'd saved over $12,000. $12,000 that would have vanished into the black hole of Laura's family expenses. $12,000 that was now mine to do with as I pleased. And you know what I pleased to do with it? Plan a vacation. A real one just for me. Because if I was going to be excluded from family vacations anyway, I might as well make my own. 2 months turned into 3, and 3 turned into 4, and with each passing week, the family's group chat apparently descended into what can only be described as a blamefest of epic proportions. I knew this because Laura kept accidentally leaving her phone open to it or reading messages out loud with this pointed tone like I was supposed to feel guilty and immediately reverse course. Spoiler alert. I did not. The messages were honestly impressive in their creativity. They'd moved past simple guilt trips and entered the realm of full-blown victimhood narratives. According to the gospel of the family group chat, I was single-handedly responsible for everything from their financial troubles to global warming. Okay, maybe not global warming, but give them time. I'm sure they'd find a way to blame me for that, too. It was a Tuesday evening when the group chat really resurrected like a zombie that refused to stay dead. I was making myself a steak dinner. A nice ribeye that I'd bought without checking the price tag first because that's the kind of baller move you can make when you're not sending $3,000 a month to people who don't like you. When Laura's phone started buzzing like it was having a seizure. Oh God, she muttered looking at her screen. They're at it again. At what? I asked flipping my steak. It was going to be perfect. Medium rare, just the way I liked it. Cooked in a cast iron skillet I'd bought for myself last week. The group chat, she said like that explained everything. They're talking about you. Fun, I said genuinely unbothered. What am I being blamed for today? Economic recession, the fall of Rome, the extinction of the dinosaurs. She didn't laugh. She never laughed anymore. They're saying you broke the family. I plated my steak, added some roasted vegetables that I'd also bought without budget anxiety, and sat down at the kitchen table. Read it to me, I said. I want to hear this. Laura hesitated, but I could tell she wanted to. She wanted me to hear how much I'd supposedly hurt everyone, how much damage I'd supposedly caused, how I was supposedly the villain in this story. So, she opened her phone and started reading. Mom wrote, "We hope you're happy. You broke this family." She paused, looking at me expectantly, waiting for the guilt to wash over me and drown me in remorse. I took a bite of steak. It was delicious, perfectly cooked, worth every penny I didn't send to her family. Okay, I said. What else? She scrolled. Becky says, he's tearing us apart. We used to be so close. We did. I asked genuinely. Were we close when you were planning a vacation without me? Was that the closeness everyone's mourning? Because I must have missed that memo. Laura ignored me and kept reading. Dad says a real man would help his family in times of need. That one made me laugh. Actually, laugh out loud. Mid-chew almost choking on my perfectly seasoned steak. A real man, I repeated. Okay, sure. Let's talk about real men. A real man doesn't lie to his son-in-law's face about budget issues while planning expensive vacations. A real man doesn't accept monthly payments for 2 years and then exclude the person paying from family events. A real man doesn't emotionally manipulate someone and then act shocked when they set boundaries. But sure, I'm the one who's not a real man. That tracks. You're being cruel, Laura said. And there were those tears again right on schedule. No, I corrected, pointing my fork at her for emphasis. I'm being honest. There's a difference. And honestly, I'm tired of being called cruel for having the audacity to stop letting people treat me like an ATM with abandonment issues. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app where I'd been keeping a running tally of my savings for months without sending $3,000 a month meant. I'd saved over $12,000. Actually, with interest and not stress buying things because I was depressed, it was closer to $13,000. I showed Laura the screen. See this? I said, this is what your family calls breaking them. I call it fixing me. Perspective is wild, isn't it? She looked away, but I wasn't done. I was on a roll. And honestly, that steak had given me energy and confidence. You want to know what's really breaking your family? I asked. It's not me cutting off money they never earned. It's the fact that they built their entire lifestyle on someone else's income and never thought about what would happen when that person got tired of being used. That's not my fault. That's theirs. That's called consequences. And apparently it's a brand new concept for everyone involved. They needed that money. Laura said weakly. They wanted that money. I corrected. There's a difference. Needed implies necessity. Your dad didn't need a lake cabin. Becky didn't need private school for her kids. Your mom didn't need to host elaborate turkey dinners with lobster tails and champagne. They wanted those things. And I made those things possible. And they thanked me by treating me like I was invisible. So, forgive me if I don't feel terrible about the natural consequences of their choices. My phone buzzed. I looked down and saw that somehow, despite having left the group chat months ago, I'd been added back in, probably by Janice, who had admin privileges and apparently no sense of boundaries. The latest message was from her, and it was directed at me, even though she clearly didn't think I could see it. He's destroyed everything we built. Years of family bonds gone because he couldn't handle one mistake. I stared at that message, feeling something shift inside me. Not guilt, not sadness, just a kind of crystalline clarity that comes when you realize someone is so fundamentally wrong that it's almost beautiful in its completeness. I typed a response. My fingers flew across the keyboard with the precision of a man who had finally completely run out of patience for other people's nonsense. I can see all of these, by the way. And for the record, you didn't give me everything. I gave you everything. $72,000 over 2 years to be exact. You gave me a family-only vacation caption and a masterclass in conditional acceptance. Not exactly a fair trade. You didn't make one mistake. You made a series of calculated decisions to exclude me while benefiting from my money. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. And I'm not destroying anything. I'm just refusing to fund my own exclusion anymore. Big difference. I hit send and watched the chaos unfold in real time. The typing indicators went crazy. Becky started typing. Ronnie started typing. Richard started typing. Everyone had an opinion and they were all desperate to share it. Becky, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So vengeful. Ronnie, bro, you're really going to die on this hill. Richard, we raised you better than this. That last one made me laugh so hard I nearly spit out my wine. Raised me? I typed back, you didn't raise me. You tolerated me as long as I was useful. And FYI, Richard, I'm pretty sure my own parents raised me and they raised me to have self-respect and boundaries. Thanks for your concern, though. Janice jumped in. This is what's wrong with your generation. No sense of family values, no loyalty. I took a deep breath, finished my bite of steak, and composed what would be my final message to this group chat. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to capture everything I'd been feeling for months. I wanted it to be so clear and so definitive that there would be no room for misinterpretation. Let's talk about loyalty, I typed. Loyalty is a two-way street. You want to talk about family values? Family values means including your son-in-law in family vacations instead of lying to him about money. Family values means not exploiting someone's generosity for years and then acting shocked when they stop being generous. Family values means treating people like they matter, not just their bank accounts. You don't get to cry about broken loyalty when you were never loyal to begin with. You were loyal to my money, not to me. There's a difference, and I'm sorry you're just now learning it. I paused, then added one more thing. Also, this isn't revenge. It's budgeting. You know that thing Laura told me we needed to do when she canceled our vacation? Turns out she was right. We didn't need to budget. So, I budgeted you out of my life. Not because I'm vengeful, but because I'm finally valuing myself enough to stop funding people who don't value me. Call it whatever you want. Revenge, cruelty, selfishness. I call it self-respect. And it costs exactly $3,000 less per month than my old life did. Then I left the group chat again, deleted the whole thing from my phone, blocked the group number so they couldn't add me back. I was done. Completely, totally, utterly done. You shouldn't have said that, Laura said quietly, staring at her phone where the messages were probably exploding with outrage. Probably not. I agreed, cutting another piece of steak. But it felt amazing. And you know what? I'm tired of not saying things because they might upset people who have zero problems upsetting me. I'm tired of being the one who has to be understanding and patient and forgiving while everyone else gets to be selfish and demanding and cruel. I'm tired of playing a game where the rules only apply to me. At work the next day, I told Mike about the group chat incident. He literally stood up and applauded. Dude, that's the most badass thing I've heard all week. You just verbally destroyed an entire family dynamic in one text message. Multiple text messages. I corrected. I wanted to be thorough. Even better, he said, you know what this is? This is leadership. Standing up for yourself, setting boundaries, refusing to accept treatment that's beneath you. They should teach this in business school. My boss overheard again. These cubicle walls are way too thin. And actually came over. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but watching you develop boundaries over the past few months has been impressive from a professional standpoint. You've gone from someone who lets people walk all over them to someone who knows their worth and demands respect. That's growth. Thanks, I said, genuinely touched. It only cost me $72,000 in a marriage to figure it out. Cheap twice the price, she said. Seriously, self-respect is priceless. Everything else is just money. That evening, I came home to find Laura packing a bag. Not a small overnight bag, a big suitcase. The kind you pack when you're leaving for a while. Going somewhere? I asked, though I knew the answer. My parents' house, she said without looking at me. I can't do this anymore. The fighting, the tension, watching you destroy my family. I'm not destroying your family, I interrupted. Your family is experiencing the natural consequences of their actions. That's different. Whatever, she said, zipping up her suitcase. I need space to think, to figure out if this marriage is even worth saving. And you know what? I didn't try to stop her. Didn't beg her to stay. Didn't promise to change or reconsider or turn the money back on. I just said, okay, take all the space you need. She looked at me like she'd expected me to fight for her. But I was done fighting. I was done begging to be valued. I was done being the only one trying to save something that maybe wasn't worth saving. She left and I finished my dinner alone in a quiet house that suddenly felt more peaceful than it had in years. For months turned into a beautiful, peaceful existence that I'd started calling my freedom era. Laura was still at her parents' house, occasionally texting me things like, "We should talk" or "I miss you." Which I'd respond to with increasingly non-committal replies like, "Okay," or "Noted." Because I discovered something revolutionary. I didn't actually miss the chaos. I missed the idea of marriage. Sure, the companionship, the partnership, all that wholesome stuff, but the actual reality of being married to someone who valued her family's comfort over my basic human dignity. Yeah, I wasn't missing that at all. And my bank account, my bank account was absolutely thriving. It was like watching a plant grow after you finally remember to water it and give it sunlight and stop letting toxic people drain all its nutrients. I'd open my banking app just to look at the numbers sometimes, which I know sounds ridiculous, but you have to understand, for years, watching money vanish into the void of family expenses had become so normal that seeing it actually accumulate felt like witnessing a miracle. For months of saving $3,000 a month, plus the money I wasn't spending on trying to make Laura happy, plus a decent bonus from work for that killer project I completed, meant I'd saved over $12,000. Actually, with everything factored in, it was closer to 14 grand. $14,000 that was mine, all mine, sitting in my account like a middle finger to everyone who told me I was being selfish. So, I did what any rational person would do with their newfound wealth and freedom. I booked myself a vacation, a real one. Natata, maybe we can afford this if we cut back on everything else vacation. A proper no-expense spared first-class flight and oceanfront resort kind of vacation to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, because I'd always wanted to go and Laura had always said it was too expensive while simultaneously funding her family's lake cabin adventures. The irony was not lost on me. In fact, I was drowning in irony. Swimming in it, building a house out of irony bricks, and living their rentrée. I spent an entire Saturday planning this trip. And let me tell you, it was the most fun I'd had in years. I wasn't checking prices compulsively. I wasn't calculating whether I could afford it. I wasn't asking anyone's permission. I was just choosing things I wanted. A beachfront suite with a private balcony. Sure. All-inclusive meal plan at the resort's 5-star restaurants. Absolutely. Scuba diving excursion? Why not? Deep-sea fishing trip? Hell yes. Spa package. You know what? I deserve it. By the time I was done booking, the total came to just under $8,000 for a week-long trip. $8,000. The old me would have had a panic attack. The old me would have canceled it immediately and put the money toward family expenses. The old me would have felt guilty for even looking at the prices. The new me? The new me hit confirm booking with the biggest smile on my face and zero regrets. I didn't tell Laura about the trip right away. Why would I? We were separated. She was at her parents' house probably being told daily about what a terrible person I was. And honestly, I didn't owe her an explanation for how I spent my own money. But word travels fast in the age of social media. And apparently my excitement was visible enough that Mike noticed at work. "You're in a good mood lately," he said during lunch one day. "Like suspiciously good. Did you win the lottery or something?" "Better," I said, pulling up the resort photos on my phone. "I'm going to Cabo solo for a week. Leaving in 3 weeks," Mike whistled, looking at the pictures of pristine beaches and infinity pools. "Damn, that's fancy. Good for you, man. You deserve it after all the crap you've been through." "Thanks," I said, and I meant it. It felt good to have someone actually support my happiness instead of making me feel guilty for it. "How much did this run you?" he asked, then immediately backtracked. "Sorry, that's rude. You don't have to." "8 grand, I said, not caring about the money talk. $8,000 for 7 days of paradise. You know what the best part is? That's less than 3 months of the money I was sending to Laura's family. 3 months of funding people who didn't value me, or 1 week of experiencing pure uninterrupted joy? Seems like a pretty easy choice. Mike raised his coffee cup to financial independence and self-respect. I'll drink to that, I said, clinking my cup against his. That evening, I made the mistake of posting about my upcoming trip on Instagram. Just a simple post with one of the resort photos and a caption that said, "Solo vacation countdown begins." Sometimes you have to choose yourself. Basic stuff, the kind of thing people post every day without drama. Except, of course, nothing in my life could be dramery. Within an hour, my phone started blowing up. Laura called, declined. Her mom called, declined. Becky texted a paragraph about how inappropriate it was for me to flaunt my wealth while her family was struggling. I replied with a screenshot of my Instagram post and wrote, "I'm posting about a vacation I saved for with my own money. You know, the money I used to give you. Yeah, it turns out when you keep your own paycheck, you can afford nice things. Wild concept." She didn't respond to that, but the best or worst, depending on your perspective, came from Richard, Laura's dad. He sent me a long text message that I had to read 3 times to believe was real. "I can't believe you're spending thousands on a vacation while my daughter is suffering while our family is struggling to make ends meet. You used to be a good man. I don't know what happened to you, but this isn't the person we welcomed into our family. You should be ashamed of yourself." I stared at that message for a solid 5 minutes, watching my blood pressure rise in real time. Then I took a deep breath, cracked my knuckles like I was about to type the great American novel, and composed my response. "Richard, let me break this down for you in terms you might understand. I'm spending $8,000 on one vacation for myself. Over 2 years, I sent you $36,000. $36,000 in family support. That's 4.5 Kobo trips worth of money that I gave to your family. Money that helped fund your lake cabin, your lifestyle, your family vacations that I wasn't invited to. You didn't think I should be ashamed when I was sending you money every month. You didn't think I was a bad person when I was working extra shifts to support your family. I was a good man when I was useful. Now that I'm spending my money on myself, suddenly I'm terrible. The math isn't made, Richard. And Laura isn't suffering because of me. She's experiencing the consequences of choosing a family that excluded her husband over the husband who funded them. Big difference." I hit send before I could second guess as myself, then blocked his number. I was done explaining myself to people who would never understand. 3 weeks later, I was at the airport with a single suitcase, a boarding pass for first class, because if I'm doing this, I'm doing it right. And a smile that probably looked unhinged to anyone who didn't know the backstory. I posted a selfie at the gate with the caption, "Family and only vacation." Just me, myself, and my debit card. The responses were mixed. My actual friends, the ones who knew the whole story, flooded the comments with support. "You deserve this. Enjoy every second. Live your best life." Mike commented, "Mr. Financial Freedom strikes again." Laura's family. "Well, let's just say they had feelings." Becky commented, "This is petty." I liked her comment but didn't respond because sometimes silence is the best answer. Jana sent me a DM. "I hope you're happy with yourself." I replied, "I actually am. Thanks for asking." And then muted the conversation. Laura herself sent a broken heart emoji. Just that. No words, just the emoji. I looked at it for a moment, felt a small twinge of something. Maybe sadness, maybe regret, maybe just the ghost of who I used to be. And then I replied with a thumbs up emoji because what else was there to say? The flight to Cabo was incredible. First class meant real food, actual leg room, and a glass of champagne that I accepted with zero guilt. I toasted to myself at 30,000 feet, looking out the window at the clouds below, and thought about how far I'd come in for months. From a guy who couldn't say no to a $3,000 monthly drain to a guy flying first class to Mexico on his own dime. Character development at its finest. When I landed in Cabo, the warm air hit me like a hug. I took a deep breath of ocean air, grabbed my suitcase, and headed to the resort shuttle, feeling lighter than I had in years, maybe ever. The resort was even better than the photos. My suite had a king-sized bed, a balcony overlooking the ocean, and a mini bar that I raided immediately because I was on vacation, and calories didn't count when you were celebrating freedom. I unpacked, changed into swim trunks, and headed straight to the beach. The sand was white, the water was impossibly blue, and there wasn't a single person asking me for money or making me feel guilty for existing. It was perfect. I sat up in a beach chair, ordered a drink with an umbrella in it because when in Cabo and pulled out my phone to take a photo, the ocean stretched out in front of me. Endless and peaceful. I snapped a picture and posted it with the caption. Turns out when you stop funding other people's dreams, you can afford your own. My phone buzzed immediately with notifications, but I turned it on airplane mode without looking. Whatever drama was brewing back home could wait. I had a week of absolute peace ahead of me, and I was going to enjoy every single second of it. I took a sip of my drink, some tropical thing with rum and pineapple that tasted like liquid happiness, and smiled at the ocean. For months ago, I'd been sitting in my home office looking at a video of a family vacation I wasn't invited to, feeling worthless and used. Now I was in Cabo drinking an overpriced cocktail on a beach that I'd paid for with money I'd earned, and I didn't owe anyone an explanation or an apology. That evening, I had dinner at the resort's fancy restaurant. Lobster because why not? Expensive wine because I deserved it. Chocolate lava cake for dessert because life is short and cake is delicious. The waiter asked if I was celebrating anything special. Yeah, I said, raising my wine glass. Independence Day Personal Edition. He didn't get the joke, but that was okay. I got it and that was enough. Later, back in my suite, I stood on the balcony watching the moon reflect off the ocean, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. No guilt, no anxiety, no wondering if I was doing enough for people who didn't appreciate it. Just peace. Just me. Just freedom. And it had only cost me everything I thought I wanted to get everything I actually needed. 6 months, half a year since I'd canceled those automatic transfers and accidentally discovered what self-respect felt like. Half a year since the family-only vacation that had changed everything. And in all that time, not a single member of Laura's family had actually apologized. They'd guilt, manipulated, blamed, and complained, but nobody had actually said, "We were wrong and we're sorry." Until Richard called. I was at my desk at work finishing up a project proposal when my phone rang with a number I'd unblocked a few weeks ago in a moment of weakness or maybe strength. I still wasn't sure which. "Hello," I answered cautious. "Hey," Richard's voice came through and he sounded different, tired, older somehow. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but could we meet for coffee? Just you and me. I want to talk." Every instinct I'd developed over the past 6 months told me to say no. To protect my peace, to maintain my boundaries. But there was something in his voice, not manipulation, not guilt-tripping, just genuine exhaustion that made me pause. When I asked, "Tomorrow? That place downtown you like?" "My treat. I'll pay for my own coffee," I said firmly. "But yeah, tomorrow at 2. The next day, I walked into the coffee shop 7 minutes late because I refused to be the one sitting there waiting, looking eager. Richard was already there, and when I saw him, I almost felt bad, almost. He looked like he'd aged a decade in 6 months. His hair was grayer, his face more lined, and he was hunched over his coffee cup like it was the only thing holding him together. "Thanks for coming," he said as I sat down across from him. I ordered my coffee, the expensive one, because I could afford it now, and waited. This was his meeting. He could start. "I owe you an apology," he said finally, not meeting my eyes. "A real one, not the kind where I apologize, but then explain why you're also wrong. Just an apology." I took a sip of my coffee and said nothing. Let him work for it. "We made a mistake," he continued, and his voice cracked slightly. "A big one. We assumed you'd understand. We assumed you'd be fine with it. We assumed a lot of things about you because you never complained, never pushed back, never said no. And that's on us, not you. We took advantage of your generosity and we justified it by telling ourselves we were family and family helps each other. But we weren't helping you. We were just taking." I kept my face neutral, but inside something loosened. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement that he was finally seeing it. "Laura's been miserable," he said quietly. "Living back home, crying every night, realizing what she lost. The whole family's been different. Without the lake cabin, without the easy money, everyone's had to actually look at their lives and figure out what they can actually afford. And it's been hard. Really hard." "Good," I said, and my voice was flat. "It should be hard. That's called reality. That's what most people live in while you all were living in a fantasy funded by my paycheck." "You're right." Richard nodded and he looked me in the eye for the first time. "You're absolutely right. And I know saying sorry doesn't fix it. I know it doesn't undo the hurt or give you back the $72,000 or the years of being treated like you didn't matter, but I am sorry. Genuinely, deeply sorry you needed that wake-up call," I said, leaning back in my chair. "You all did because you weren't going to stop. You would have kept taking and taking until either I had nothing left or I had a breakdown. And you know what the sad part is? If you just invited me to that vacation, we probably wouldn't be here. If you just treated me like I actually mattered instead of like a convenient bank account, I would have kept helping. But you didn't. You chose a caption over a relationship." "I know," he said, and there were actual tears in his eyes now. Genuine ones. We were wrong. We were selfish. He paused, searching for the word entitled. We felt entitled to your money because you never said no. And that's not an excuse. It's just the truth of how we saw it. We needed this. Needed to lose everything to understand what we had. I took another sip of coffee, processing. Part of me wanted to stay angry to hold on to the righteous fury that had sustained me through 6 months of rebuilding myself. But another part, a quieter, more tired part, just wanted peace. No hard feelings, I said. Finally. I mean it. I'm not holding a grudge. I just reallocated funds from family drama to self-respect. Better return on investment. Richard laughed. A short, sad sound. Always the engineer. Everything's an equation. Some equations are simple. I said respect equals respect. Value equals value. If the equation doesn't balance, you solve for the missing variable. In this case, the missing variable was my self-worth. And Laura, he asked carefully, have you talked to her? She texts. I admitted a lot. Says she misses me. Says she's learned her lesson. Says she wants to work on things. Do you believe her? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know. I said honestly. Maybe she has learned. Maybe she hasn't. But either way, I learned something, too. I learned what I'm worth. And I'm not going back to being someone's optional extra who only matters when it's convenient. That's fair, Richard said, nodding slowly. More than fair, actually. We sat in silence for a moment, the coffee shop noise filling the space between us. Finally, Richard stood up, extending his hand. Thank you, he said. For meeting me, for listening, for being honest, and for teaching us all a lesson we desperately needed, even if we hated learning it. I shook his hand. You're welcome. And Richard, good luck. I mean it. I hope you all figure it out. As I left the cafe, my phone buzzed. Laura, right on cue, miss you. I looked at the message for a long moment, thinking about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I would have melted at those 2 words. Would have run back, eager to make things work, willing to forget just to avoid being alone. Now I typed, ask Becky if she can Venmo that feeling. And for the first time in my entire relationship with Laura, I laughed genuinely, freely laughed at my own joke, not caring if it was petty or mean or justified because it was true. And truth, I'd learned, was more valuable than keeping the peace. I walked out into the sunshine, my coffee in hand, my bank account healthy, my self-respect intact. The family had their wake-up call. Laura had her regrets. Richard had his apology. And me, I had something better than all of that combined. I had peace. Real earned, hard-fought peace. And apparently, it only cost $3,000 less a month than misery. Best investment I ever made.
That brings this story to an end, and that one was definitely a wild ride. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, let's move into the next story, titled,
After years abroad, I came home and found my mom living as a maid in the $1.5 million house I bought, while my brother lived there like an owner. She didn't even know who I was. I called my lawyer that night. It's time for justice. After 5 long, grueling years in Japan working as an industrial welder amid noisy, freezing construction sites, I, Paul Rowe, was finally coming home. The plane touched down at Los Angeles International Airport, and I rushed straight out, hailed a taxi, and headed directly to the small house on the outskirts of the city that I had bought for my mother before I left. My heart was pounding with excitement, like a little kid waiting for his birthday present. My mother, Matilda Rowe, is the woman I love most in this world. She raised me and my younger brother, Colin, single-handedly after our father died early in a workplace accident. I still remember those evenings when she would sit by the fireplace telling us fairy tales to lull us to sleep, even though she was exhausted after her shift at the textile factory. Over the past 5 years, I sent money home regularly and video called every week. But nothing compares to holding her tight and feeling that familiar warmth again. The taxi stopped in front of the familiar iron gate. I paid, hurriedly grabbed my suitcase and stepped out. The late afternoon sun slanted through the row of trees along the street, casting the little house into sharp relief. But in that moment, I froze. The house looked different. The old-fashioned latch lock, I remembered, the simple kind Mom always used because she was afraid of losing keys, had been replaced by a sleek electronic lock with a numeric keypad and blinking LED lights. All around the gate and walls were surveillance cameras, at least 4 of them, sweeping back and forth like owl eyes. My mother, Matilda, 58 years old, gentle and completely clueless about technology. She was even scared of the smartphone I bought her, always saying, "Son, it's too complicated. I'll just stick with the old one." How could she possibly have decided to install all this herself? Maybe she hired someone for safety reasons. I tried to calm myself, but a strange feeling started creeping in. Something wasn't right. I took a deep breath, set my suitcase aside, and pressed the doorbell. The familiar chime from my childhood rang out clearly. I waited, smiling as I imagined Mom rushing to the door, eyes glistening with tears, shouting, "Paul, my boy is home." But nothing happened. I pressed again, holding it longer this time, still silence. My heart started beating faster. Maybe she was napping or out at the market. No, I had told her I was coming. I rang a third time, then a fourth, and finally started calling out loudly through the gate, "Mom, it's Paul. Your son is back." Still not a sound. The house was unnaturally quiet, as if no one was there. Or was Mom sick? That thought sent a chill down my spine. I glanced around. The neighbor next door was watering plants, but didn't look over. I thought about asking them, but decided to wait a little longer. Once I saw Mom, everything would make sense. Finally, after the fifth ring, I heard a clicking sound from inside. The door swung open, and I stood there stunned. It wasn't Mom. It was Colin, my 28-year-old younger brother. The brother I remembered as an unemployed deadbeat who lived recklessly, drank too much, and gambled. Colin stood there in a ratty old t-shirt, hair messy, eyes slightly red like he'd just woken up. When he saw me, he visibly flinched for a split second. I caught it clearly, as if he was genuinely shocked. Then instantly he broke into a huge, almost forced smile, teeth showing, but the smile not reaching his eyes. "Brother Paul, oh my God, you're back. Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" His voice was a little too high-pitched, nothing like his usual lazy drawl. Before I could answer, Colin rushed forward and threw his arms around me in a tight hug, slapping my back hard, acting over the top happy. I was taken aback. My brother had never been this affectionate. When we were younger, we fought all the time because he was lazy and I ended up doing all the chores. The last time I saw him before leaving for Japan, we had argued because he borrowed money and never paid it back. Now this hug, it made a slight weariness rise inside me. Something felt off. I patted his shoulder and gently pushed him away. "Yeah, I'm back, but why are you here? Where's Mom?" Colin laughed loudly and pulled me inside. Come in. Come in. We'll talk inside. Carla, babe, Paul's home." He ushered me in like he owned the place. I stepped through the gate, dragging my suitcase, and immediately noticed that the entire interior had been transformed. The familiar living room with the old sofa where Mom used to sit knitting was now furnished with shiny leather couches, a huge flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, and brand new shelves filled with trendy decorations. Little statues, modern voses. The whole atmosphere felt like it belonged to a young couple, not a kind old lady like my mother. I frowned and looked around. "The house has changed a lot, huh? You did all this?" Right then, Carla, Colin's 27-year-old wife, came out of the bedroom. She was wearing a short dress, hair tied up high, flashing a bright but strangely artificial smile like she was performing. "Paul, hi. It's been forever. Colin talks about you all the time." Her voice was sweet, but I could sense the strain. Carla and Colin had gotten married 2 years before I left, and I remembered her as the demanding type who constantly pushed Colin to make more money while she herself did nothing but shop. Now, watching her standing there holding a glass of water, eyes darting quickly toward the kitchen, everything felt even stranger. I sat down on the sofa, trying to stay calm. "Where's Mom? I've been calling and she never came out." Colin sat next to me, slapping my thigh. "Oh, Mom's in the kitchen. She's doing great. Don't worry." But he hesitated for a split second and his voice dropped a little. I raised an eyebrow. "In the kitchen? We've been talking so loudly. How come she didn't hear? She always used to rush out right away." Colin gave an awkward laugh. She's a bit tired doing something. I'll go call her." Before he could react further, I asked directly, "Why are you and Carla living here?" "This is Mom's house, the house I bought for her before I left. Don't you two have your own place?" Colin answered smoothly, as if he'd rehearsed it. "Well, about a year after you went abroad, Mom started getting weaker. She became forgetful, sometimes dizzy. I thought it was dangerous for her to live alone, so I suggested my wife and I move in to take care of her." Mom agreed right away. She said it's nicer to have family around, less lonely. I was a bit surprised since when had Mom gotten weak? Why hadn't she mentioned any of this during our video calls? But I didn't suspect too much because I knew Mom loved her children and grandchildren, especially Colin, even though he was a mess. She had lived alone for 5 years. It made sense that she agreed to let Colin move in to ease the loneliness and have someone to talk to and cook with. I nodded. "Oh, I see. That's good. I'm glad you thought of Mom. But deep down, a small doubt flickered. Why hadn't she ever told me about this? I glanced at Carla and caught her shooting a quick, unreadable look toward the kitchen, a mix of worry and caution before she immediately smiled again, hiding whatever it was. A cold shiver ran down my spine, like an invisible hand tightening around my throat. My heart raced, cold sweat breaking out on my back. Something was seriously wrong here. The changed house, new locks, cameras everywhere, Colin and Carla living here, and Mom not coming out to greet her son after 5 years apart. I stood up. Never mind. I'll go see her in the kitchen myself. Colin jumped up, too. Yeah, let me take you, but I didn't wait. I headed straight for the kitchen. Every step felt heavy. The air in the house suddenly became oppressive, tense like in a horror movie. I could hear the faint clinking of dishes from the kitchen. But why wasn't Mom calling out? The bad feeling surged stronger, and I pushed the kitchen door open hard, ready to face whatever was waiting on the other side. And then I froze on the threshold, my heart almost stopping. There in front of me was my mother, Matilda. But not the mother I remembered. She was wearing an old crumpled maid's outfit, the faded apron she used to wear only when scrubbing the house years ago. She was bent over the kitchen sink, looking exhausted, visibly gaunt and frail. Her hands trembling as if she had no strength left. Those rough, calloused fingers that had worked hard her entire life now shook violently as they clutched a sponge. Water dripped from the faucet onto the wet floor. The heavy air in the kitchen was thick with the smell of detergent mixed with leftover food. But what truly paralyzed me was the sight of her. The strong woman who had single-handedly raised my brother and me, now reduced to a shadow, weak and utterly drained. Why was she doing housework in this condition? My throat tightened, tears welled up, but I forced them back. I called out to her, my voice strangled as if someone were choking me. She turned her head slowly and looked at me with dull, vacant eyes, as though struggling to recognize a distant face from a foggy memory. Her hair had turned much grayer, tangled and unkempt. Her face was so sunken I barely recognized her. Deep wrinkles carved into her skin, cheeks hollow, eyes cloudy behind a veil of mist. She used to be radiant, always beaming when I came home. But now she looked as if she had aged 10 years in the 5 I'd been away. Pain stabbed through my chest like a sharp knife. How had Mom ended up like this? I had sent money home faithfully every month, believing she was living comfortably. Yet the reality in front of me left me reeling. She stared at me for a long time, blinking as if trying to focus. Then a faint spark of recognition flickered in her eyes. She stammered. "Paul, my son, you're back." Her voice trembled, breaking off between words, her feet shuffled slightly as if she wanted to come closer. She let the sponge fall from her hands, water dripping onto the floor. In that moment, hope flared inside me. I wanted to rush forward and hug her right then. But instantly, Colin cut in from behind, his voice quick and loud. "Mom, go rest. You're not feeling well. You shouldn't be working so hard or you'll wear yourself out." He darted into the kitchen, planting himself between me and her, one hand on her shoulder as if holding her back, his face full of concern. Yet, I clearly saw the strain in it. I turned to Colin, waiting for an explanation about this not feeling well business. Why hadn't anyone told me? But in that split second, I saw him flinch, his shoulders tensing before he forced himself to relax and flash an awkward smile. "Paul. Mom gets tired really easily. Let me help her." I frowned. The unease inside me grew stronger. Why was he reacting so fast as if he'd rehearsed this exact scenario? Colin spoke hurriedly, his voice rising slightly with tension. "Lately, Mom's been really forgetful. Sometimes she remembers things, sometimes she doesn't. And she gets emotional easily. She cries when she sees people she knows. Come on, let's take her to the living room and talk there. Standing here too long will tire her out." Carla appeared in the doorway, her tone soft, but her eyes flashing with calculation. "He's right, Paul. I'll get her some water to feel better." Their reactions were too quick, too perfectly synchronized, like they had practiced this, prepared answers for every possible question. The strange feeling inside me swelled like a balloon about to burst. What were they hiding? Why did Mom look so utterly exhausted? And why had they left her washing dishes alone? I didn't wait any longer. I stepped forward and wrapped my mother in a tight hug. She trembled in my arms, her body cold and fragile, completely unlike the warm, strong embrace I remembered from the days. She comforted me after fights with Colin or cooked dinner for us despite her own exhaustion. Now she was so thin, I could feel every bone. Her skin was ice cold, as if she hadn't been warm in a very long time. Overwhelming sorrow surged through me. I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. "Mom, I'm home. I'm so sorry I left you alone for so long. She whispered something incoherent, resting her head on my shoulder. But she didn't hug me back as if she were afraid of something. I gently led her to the living room, supporting her step by careful step because she walked unsteadily, legs shaky. The moment we sat on the sofa, the first thing I asked was, "Why are you letting Mom do housework in this state? She's so weak. She needs to rest." Carla jumped in quickly, her voice dripping with forced sincerity. "Oh, Paul, she insists on doing it. She says she wants to keep busy, that sitting idle makes her restless. Colin and I have tried to stop her, but she won't listen." Colin nodded vigorously. "Exactly, bro. Mom's stubborn as a mule. We tell her over and over, but she never listens." Yet, their excuses rang completely hollow. How could Mom insist on washing dishes with hands that shook like that? And why weren't they helping her? I turned to Mom, trying to speak gently. "Mom, it's Paul. Look at me clearly. Are you okay? How have you been living? If anything's wrong, tell me. Don't hide it from me." Matilda looked at me, struggling to form words, her sentences broken and halting. "My son, I missed you, but my mind's been so confused lately." Her memory was clearly jumbled, her voice small and trembling, as though she was terrified of saying the wrong thing. Every time she hesitated or seemed about to say something, Colin or Carla immediately interrupted, answering for her, talking over her. "Mom says she's fine, just forgetful." Or Carla, "She missed you so much, but she's tired now." Mom fell silent at once, shrinking into herself in fear, shoulders hunching, eyes dropping like a frightened bird. That was the moment everything became crystal clear. Matilda kept glancing at Colin and Carla with anxious, weary eyes, the look of someone long accustomed to being controlled and too scared to speak without permission. She huddled on the sofa, clutching the hem of her apron as if afraid of being scolded for saying the wrong thing. My heart clenched with a mixture of pain and rage. What the hell was going on here? Why was my mother terrified of her own son and daughter-in-law? I wanted to ask her directly, "Mom, tell me, what have they done to you?" But with Colin and Carla sitting right there on either side, watching her every move, I knew she wouldn't dare tell the truth. She would stay silent or repeat whatever script they'd given her. I swallowed my words, choking on them while my mind spun with 1,000 questions. I had planned to stay the night, cook for her, hold her while she slept like when I was little. But the tension and the way Colin kept trying to control everything made it clear that staying now would get me nowhere. They would watch every second. I'd never get a moment alone with her. "Okay, I'll stay tonight, Mom." I tried. Colin immediately cut in. "The house is cramped, bro. Sleeping on the sofa wouldn't be comfortable. Just stay at a hotel and rest properly. Come back tomorrow." Carla nodded. "Yeah, she's really weak these days. Let her sleep early so she feels better." Their intention was obvious. They wanted me gone so they could keep controlling her. In the end, I stood up, kissed Mom on the forehead, and said, "I'm going to visit some old friends for a bit. Take care of yourself, okay?" It was a lie. I needed time to think. Colin instantly asked, his voice thick with worry. "How many days will you be gone? And will you come back here afterward?" I saw right through him. He wanted me away as long as possible, so I answered vaguely. "After I see my friends, I might have to fly straight back to Japan. I only got a short leave. Work's crazy." Colin visibly relaxed, his shoulders dropping, a genuine smile breaking across his face. "Cool. Have fun then." That unguarded reaction sent a chill through me. Why was he so relieved? As if my leaving meant they were free to do whatever they wanted. It confirmed beyond doubt that in this house something horrific was being hidden. I stepped out of the gate, my heart heavy as if it were dragging stones behind it. The late afternoon sunlight slanted through the trees, but it couldn't chase away the gnawing dread eating at me from the inside. Through the window, Mom watched me leave, her eyes glistening with tears. Yet, she didn't dare wave, as if terrified of being punished for it. The sight stabbed my heart. Why was she so afraid? I hailed a taxi, slumped into the back seat, and told the driver in a hoarse voice, "Head straight to the outskirts toward the airport." But halfway there, passing familiar streets lined with coffee shops and children playing, I suddenly changed my mind. "Turn around, man. Find a hotel near the old neighborhood instead." The driver glanced at me in the rear view mirror and raised an eyebrow. "What's up, kid? Forget something?" I shook my head, voice low. "No, I just don't want to go far yet." Truth was, a terrible unease noted at me. A dark premonition whispering that if I truly left now, Mom would be in real danger. I needed to see what would happen once they thought I was gone. Once they believed I'd flown back to Japan, and they could act freely without fear of being caught. The taxi stopped in front of a small, run-down hotel on the outskirts. The kind of place meant for working-class guys like me. Simple rooms, hard beds, but only a few miles from Mom's house. I paid, dragged my suitcase inside, and checked into the cheapest room available. The place was dim and smelled of damp mold, but I didn't care. I collapsed onto the bed, my mind spinning. 5 years in Japan, slaving away welding steel amid smoke, dust, and deafening machines, thinking that sending money home every month was enough to keep Mom comfortable. And now, the house filled with brand new things. Mom's skin and bones. Colin and Carla controlling her every glance. I remembered our recent video calls. She'd always cut them short, saying, "I'm fine, son." But her eyes avoided the camera as if someone were watching her. Now everything clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture. I had to watch them. I had to find proof. But how could Colin do this? He was my little brother, blood of my blood. When we were kids, we played together. I taught him how to kick a soccer ball. Mom would smile and say, "You two love each other. Always protect one another." And now he'd betrayed her for money. The thought sent ice through my veins. I lay awake all night, the distant sound of traffic echoing like a warning. For the next few days, I watched from a distance, acting like an amateur detective. Early each morning, I put on an old jacket and baseball cap, stood at the street corner a safe distance away, hiding behind the trees. I saw Colin and Carla forcing Matilda to take some kind of pills every day. Each morning, they made her sit at the dining table. Carla would hold a cloudy white pill, shove it into Mom's mouth, and Mom would swallow with trembling hands, eyes downcast, never resisting. I thought they were vitamins. She really was weak. Maybe she needed them, so I didn't dwell on it at first. But why was she growing more and more dazed? I remembered how strong she used to be, walking to the market, laughing. Mom still got plenty of strength. Don't worry about me. Now she shuffled around the house like a ghost, doing chores from dawn till dusk. I watched for 3 straight days, heart pounding every time they locked the doors and the cameras swept the yard like they were keeping her prisoner. During the day, Colin would go out, supposedly job hunting, as he claimed. But I saw him hanging out at the nearby bar, laughing with his buddies. Carla stayed home, her face always twisted in anger, snapping and yelling at Mom for dropping a plate while washing dishes. I wanted to charge in, but I held back. I needed solid proof. Those nights in the hotel, I lay clutching my phone, scrolling through old photos of Mom, tears streaming down my face. Why hadn't I come home sooner? Regret and dread churned inside me like a ticking bomb. Then one evening, everything shattered. It was pitch black outside, a cold drizzle falling. I stood in the shadows across the street, rain soaking my coat, but I didn't care. Through the lit kitchen window, I watched Mom frantically preparing dinner, hands shaking as she carried a tray of food, looking on the verge of collapse. She staggered, tried to steady herself, then suddenly fainted. The tray crashed to the floor with a deafening clatter that echoed through the quiet night. My heart seized as if someone were crushing it. I almost ran forward right then, but in that instant, Carla burst in like a wild animal, face crimson with rage. She screamed, "You useless old hag. You ruin everything. Look at this mess. Good for nothing." She started kicking Mom hard, merciless kicks, trying to rouse her. "Get up. Stop faking it. You think passing out will make me go easy on you?" She didn't care that Mom had just collapsed. She kept kicking the frail body, unleashing all her fury. Carla hurled the cruelest insults through the open window. "Keeping you around is nothing but a waste. You can't do anything, right? Why are you still alive, just leeching off us forever?" Those words cut into me like knives. I stood frozen, blood rushing to my head. All I could see was my mother crumpled on the floor. My mother, the woman who had sacrificed everything for her children, was being treated like garbage by her own daughter-in-law. Pain and rage exploded inside me like wildfire. I couldn't hold back anymore. I charged toward the house, heart pounding, breathless with fury. I kicked in the back door with a splintering crash and stormed into the kitchen, face burning, breathing ragged. Carla spun around, saw me, and turned deathly pale like she'd seen a ghost. She stammered, I didn't mean, why are you here?" Her mouth couldn't form a coherent sentence. Her hands shook as she pointed at Mom on the floor. I didn't let her finish. I swung my open hand and slapped her across the face hard. The crack echoed through the kitchen. She stumbled, nearly fell, clutching her cheek, eyes wide with shock. Blood roaring in my ears, I roared, voice tearing through the air. "Who the hell do you think you are? That's my mother. What did she ever do to you that you dare kick her like that? She fainted and you still scream at her?" The kitchen froze. Carla leaned against the wall, face ash and lips trembling, only able to babble in terror. I just got angry because she spilled. At that moment, frantic footsteps thundered in. Colin rushed out from the bedroom and stopped dead when he saw me towering in the middle of the kitchen. "But bro, Paul, why are you still here?" His voice cracked with panic. Instinctively, he jumped in front of his wife, trying to sound tough. "Calm down. Don't make a scene. The neighbors will hear." One hand reached to hold me back, but his eyes darted wildly, panic and calculation plain to see. I pointed straight at my brother, voice like iron. "Shut up. Why do you let mom work in that condition? She's weak. Why don't you help her? Why do you let your wife scream at her? Even knock her down? She's your mother, too." Colin desperately defended himself, voice shrill. "You've got it all wrong. Carla's been stressed from work lately. She just snapped. What just happened was an accident. Mom fell. Nobody pushed her. It's not a big deal." He forced an awkward smile and tried to put an arm around me, but I shoved him off and stared into the eyes of the little brother I once loved. My voice was still. If I hadn't been here, how would I have seen this? And if I'd really left, what worse things would the two of you do to her? Did you think once I was back in Japan, you could torture her freely? Colin was speechless, mouth opening and closing with lame excuses. "It's not like that. I take care of her." Meanwhile, Carla hid behind him, turning away, trying to mask her contempt. But her eyes burned with hatred toward Matilda as if mom were her mortal enemy. I saw their true faces clearly, not children, but parasites. I wouldn't let mom suffer one more second. I rushed forward, bent down, and scooped Matilda into my arms. Her body was limp, ice cold, her breathing so faint my heart nearly stopped. I turned to Colin, eyes like blades. "I'm taking mom out of here right now." Colin lunged in panic to block the door. "What are you doing? She needs rest. Put her down." In that instant, every ounce of restraint inside me collapsed. I kicked him hard in the chest. He flew backward, slammed into the cabinets, doubled over in pain. I clutched mom tightly to my chest, and strode out, ignoring Colin's groans of agony and Carla's look of pure terror behind me. In that moment, I understood perfectly. This was no longer just a family argument. This was the declaration of war, the beginning of the price they would pay. Carla stood there, eyes blazing with hatred, but not daring to lunge at me, only muttering under her breath. You'll regret this." I didn't look back. I stepped out into the pitch-black street, rain still falling, hailed a taxi, heart pounding like a war drum. Mom stirred in my arms, her eyes half open, breathing shallow, but I felt her fingers weakly clutch mine, clinging to a fragile thread of hope. The taxi sped through the rainy night, street lights flickering through the windows, casting sharp shadows over Mom's gaunt, hollow-cheeked face, her eyes still clouded with lingering fear. I held her tighter and whispered, "It's okay, Mom. I'm taking you to the hospital right now. Everything's going to be all right." She didn't answer, just gave a faint nod and rested her head on my shoulder. My heart hung suspended between terror and guilt. Terror that I might already be too late. Guilt that I had left her in that house for 5 long years. In Japan, I'd worked myself to the bone, welding steel amid smoke, dust, and deafening noise, thinking that sending money home was enough to keep her comfortable. Enough to make up for my absence. And now she had been abused, poisoned, and I, her eldest son, had known nothing. Every time the image of Carla kicking her or Colin making excuses flashed through my mind, my blood boiled. I would never forgive them. But first, I had to save Mom. The taxi screeched to a halt outside the emergency entrance. Neon lights glared white against the rain. I carried her inside and shouted, "Doctor, please help my mother. She just collapsed." Nurses rushed over with a wheelchair and whisked her into the ER. One of them stopped me at the door. That night, the hospital buzzed with machines and the sharp smell of disinfectant, but I barely noticed. Doctors ran full exams, drew blood, took x-rays. I sat outside the room, burning with anxiety. Every minute felt like a century. I kept thinking of the old days. Matilda, the strong woman who had raised my brother and me alone after Dad died in a factory accident. She worked at the textile mill, came home exhausted, yet still cooked with a smile, and told us fairy tales. "My boys are going to make something of themselves," she used to say. Now she lay there, frail as a withered leaf because of her youngest son and his wife. I clenched my fists, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. Why was life so cruel? Finally, the doctor emerged, face grave, holding the test results. "You're Matilda's son, correct? We have the results." I stood up, voice shaking. "Doctor, how is she? Is it serious?" He sighed heavily. She's severely exhausted and malnourished. Her body has been pushed far beyond its limits for a long time. Weak heart, critical nutrient deficiencies, completely drained. But that's not the worst of it. My chest tightened as I waited for the rest. More alarmingly, her blood shows high residual levels of sedatives administered continuously over an extended period. Drugs that are not appropriate for routine elderly care. They suppress the nervous system, cause memory loss, and prolonged fatigue. I froze, ears ringing, each word slicing through me like a blade. Sedatives. They had been forcing her to take poison to control her. The doctor continued bluntly. If this had gone on much longer, she could have suffered permanent neurological damage, even life-threatening complications, coma, multiple organ failure. You brought her in just in time. I collapsed into a chair, head spinning. I had left her in that house for 5 years, sent money, made video calls, but never came back, never checked. I was the guilty one. I had blindly trusted Colin. Regret crashed over me like a tidal wave. I buried my face in my hands and sobbed silently. It's my fault. I'm so sorry, Mom. The doctor placed a hand on my shoulder. What matters now is treatment. We'll keep her admitted for monitoring and recovery, for fluids, nutrition, and complete cessation of the sedatives. I nodded, wiping my eyes. Yes. Do whatever it takes. I'll stay here and take care of her. Please talk only to me about everything. In the days that followed, Mom lay in a stark white hospital room, the steady beep of the heart monitor filling the silence. Thanks to 4 fluids, vitamins, proper nutrition, and stopping the sedatives entirely, Matilda slowly began to regain clarity. Her eyes were no longer vacant. A spark of awareness returned. She looked at me and gave a weak smile. Paul, you really came back. I took her hand, voice thick with emotion. Yes, Mom. I'm here now. Just get better. Okay. She started recognizing people clearly again, speaking coherently, no longer days like that first day I found her in the dark kitchen. She asked about the nurses, the doctors, even reminisced. I remember the night you left for Japan. I cried all night. Every word healed something inside me, yet also reminded me of the pain she had endured. I never left her bedside. I took care of every meal, every nap, every little thing. Mornings, I washed her face and spoon-fed her nutritious porridge. Come on, Mom. It's good. Afternoons, I told her funny stories from Japan to make her laugh. Nights I sat holding her hand while she slept, listening to her steady breathing. In the quiet hospital nights, with only rain tapping the window, I wondered what Colin and Carla were doing now. Mom grew stronger day by day. Color returned to her skin. Her hands stopped trembling. The doctor checked her and smiled. Excellent progress. No traces of the drugs left in her system. I breathed a sigh of relief, but the weight in my heart remained. Why did she have to suffer like this? One sunny afternoon, golden light streamed through the window, warming the room. I gently asked, Mom, why did you let them treat you that way? Why didn't you tell me? Matilda looked at me, eyes suddenly filling with tears, then burst into wrenching sobs, her whole body shaking as if releasing years of pent-up pain. She cried loudly, tears soaking the pillow, clutching my hand. My son, they controlled me. I was so scared. I held her, stroking her back. Tell me everything, Mom. It's okay now. When she finally calmed down, she wiped her eyes and began voice trembling, each word cutting me to the core. She told me that sometime after I left for Japan, Colin and Carla came asking to stay just temporarily. They were having a hard time. Because she loved her son, she happily agreed, thinking it would be nice to have family around. At first, they were attentive. Carla cooked. Colin fixed things around the house. Mom was overjoyed. I thought they had changed. But within months, their true colors emerged. They took over the house as if it were theirs, forced her to do all the chores, and monitored her every hour. They said, an old woman needs to keep busy to stay healthy. But really, they made me clean and cook from morning till night, she said, choking up. They forbade her from going out. It's dangerous, Mom. Gradually cut off contact with neighbors by installing cameras and locking the doors. Then they started giving her vitamins for the brain to keep you sharp. She took them at first thinking they were harmless. But soon her mind grew foggy, her body weak, her memory fragmented. She forgot names, dates, everything. When she tried to refuse the pills, they forced her and threatened. If you don't obey, we'll put you in a nursing home, and those places are hell. Terrified and cornered, she obeyed right up until the day I returned. It hurt so much, son, but I endured it so you could work in peace. I asked why she never called me. She shook her head. I don't know how to use the phone properly and Colin controlled it, took it away. If I tried to call you on my own, they'd starve me for days. Just water, no food, she recounted one time she secretly tried to call me. Carla caught her, snatched the phone, and screamed, "Do you want to starve?" They locked her in her room for 2 days until she nearly passed out from hunger. Hearing all this, I gripped her hand so hard it hurt. My chest crushed by pain, rage, and burning guilt. How dare they? Colin, my own brother, my blood, tortured our mother like this. I held her tight. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'll make this right." She stroked my hair. "All I need is you, Paul." Her story opened a black abyss. They hadn't just physically abused her. They had poisoned her mind and isolated her completely. I now understood those video calls, her silence, her averted eyes. They had been sitting right there watching. Fury surged through me, mixed with cold determination. What was their motive? Money? The house? I would find out. But first, Mom had to be fully strong again. In the days that followed, I lived in a state of total chaos, as if trapped inside a whirlwind with no way out. By day, I sat beside Mom's hospital bed, smiling, chatting with her, spoon-feeding her nutritious porridge, telling funny stories from Japan. Like the time I nearly fell off the scaffolding in a strong wind, or the best sushi I'd ever eaten. But inside my head, everything was a storm. I was torn between blind rage that made me want to storm back to the old house, punch Colin square in the face and scream, "You piece of filth," and endless self-reproach. How could I have been so blindly trusting? For 5 whole years, I sent money home faithfully, $1,000 every single month, thinking that was enough to keep Mom comfortable, enough to make up for my absence. In reality, I had abandoned her, left her alone to face 2 monsters wearing the masks of son and daughter-in-law. Every night, lying on the hospital room's hard sofa, I tossed and turned, haunted by the image of Mom being kicked across the kitchen floor, mixed with memories of her smiling face the day I left for Japan. "Take care of yourself, son. I'll be waiting for you." It was my fault. If I had come home sooner, if I had checked more carefully, none of this would have happened. I couldn't understand why Colin and Carla could treat our mother with such cruelty, or what their real goal was. What could they possibly want from a kind old woman? The money I sent, the little house I bought for her with my own sweat and blood. The thought sent ice through my veins like an invisible hand squeezing my throat. The feeling that a much larger conspiracy was lurking behind everything wouldn't let me sit still. I couldn't just wait for Mom to recover and do nothing. The knowing dread was like the ticking of a time bomb. I suddenly remembered an old high school friend who once mentioned a private investigator who could dig up any secret. The next morning, while Mom slept soundly after her IV drip, I slipped out of the hospital and called Daniel. I asked him about a trustworthy pie. "Paul, be careful," Daniel said, voice worried. "But I know a good one, Jack Heron. Specializes in family cases and financial tracking. I'll send you his number." I called Jack immediately, voice shaking as I gave him the short version. "My brother and his wife have been abusing my mother. I need them watched." Jack listened calmly. "I understand, Mr. Paul. I'll monitor the couple's every move. Home, work, finances, $500 a day, but I guarantee results." I agreed on the spot and wired the advance, heart pounding like I was awaiting a verdict. This was the first step. I would no longer let them walk free. Just a few days later, Jack contacted me through an encrypted call, voice low. "Paul, I have extremely serious information, enough to prove their real motive. Meet me at the coffee shop near the hospital." My heart hammered in my chest. I told Mom, "I'm just going to grab some food." Then rushed out into the light drizzle that made the air feel even heavier. In the small cafe, Jack sat in a dark corner with a thick folder. He slid it across the table. I got an audio recording from their living room while Colin and Carla were talking. I placed a legal listening device through the window. "You authorized it." I put on the earphones, pressed play, and my world collapsed. Carla's shrill voice. "We have to hurry and finish transferring the house title to us, Colin. Paul is back. Things could fall apart if he stays too long." Colin, anxious. "I know. Tomorrow, I'll contact our usual notary. That guy will rubber stamp everything. Mom's forged power of attorney is still valid. Just a few more signatures and it's done." Carla pressing. "Get it finished fast. I'm not losing this house. Paul's money transfers are almost gone. We need to sell the place for capital." The recording ended with their laughter as if they were discussing a business deal instead of stealing their own mother's home. I sat frozen, ears ringing, hands trembling around the earphones. Transfer the house title. Forged power of attorney. They were planning to seize the very house I had bought with years of blood and sweat so Mom could live out her days in peace. Jack continued gravely. That's not all. I also discovered that the savings account in Matilda's name has been systematically drained over a long period. All withdrawals made by Colin using the forged power of attorney. I accessed the bank system. Here are the statements. He pushed over pages dense with numbers. The balance was exactly the money I had wired home every month for 5 years. More than $60,000 now, almost completely gone. Only a few hundred left. The statement showed the money had been spent on gambling, luxury shopping, vacations, designer clothes, paying off gambling debts at local casinos, and personal indulgence for both of them. Transactions included $5,000 to a loan shark, $2,000 for a diamond ring for Carla, even expensive concert tickets. I held the folder and went numb, tears blurring my vision. I never imagined they weren't just stealing the money I sent. They were deliberately destroying Mom's health, drugging her into a stupor so she couldn't resist, isolating her so no one would interfere. All to seize everything. Now it all made sense. Forcing the sedatives, controlling her every move, cutting her off from the world. It wasn't random cruelty. It was a calculated plan from the start to strip her of her assets. They moved in pretending to care, gradually turned her into a slave, bled the bank account dry, and prepared to transfer the house. If I hadn't come back when I did, she would have been dumped in a nursing home or worse, slowly killed by the drugs, and they would have walked away with everything. Pain, rage, and guilt crashed over me like a tidal wave. I sat in that cafe, gripping the folder until my knuckles went white, tears streaming down my face. How could Colin do this? My little brother, who sobbed in my arms when Dad died. Now he sold our mother for money. Amid the chaos, one thing became crystal clear. There was no turning back. If I stopped now, Mom would remain a victim forever and people like them would keep destroying others. I wiped my tears and said firmly, "Thank you, Jack. I'm hiring you to expand the investigation. Dig deeper into the bank transactions. Trace the forged documents and all their contacts with the notary's office." Jack nodded. "Done, but be extremely careful. Cornered animals panic and lash out." I nodded in return. After that, I quietly prepared the rest myself. Called the bank to verify statements, backed up every record, photographed every piece of evidence I had, every tiny fragment saved for the coming confrontation. For the first time since returning, the pain and fury inside me were joined by something colder and unbreakable. Resolve. I would not let them get away with this. They would pay with prison, with losing everything they stole from my mother. I walked back to the hospital. Mom was sleeping peacefully under the pale yellow light. I sat beside her bed, took her thin hand in mine, and whispered, "I'll protect you. This time, no one will ever hurt you again." Outside, the night was deep and still. Inside my head, every link of a plan was quietly locking into place, silent, tense, like a massive storm, gathering strength before it breaks. After gathering all the documents from the detective, I took the entire dossier to Daniel Harper, a close friend from college who is now a criminal and civil attorney. Daniel is tall, wears thick glasses, and is always as calm as a rock. But when I gave him a quick summary over the phone, his voice turned dead serious. "Paul, get to my office right now. This is no joke." His office sat in the city center, a small but tidy room lined with law books and thick with the smell of strong black coffee. I walked in clutching the heavy folder, sweat beading on my forehead despite the cool weather. "Daniel, look at this. My own brother. They tortured my mother for money." He sat down and started flipping through page after page. Recordings, bank statements, photos of Colin meeting the notary. His face gradually palled, brows knitting tighter and tighter. I sat across from him, heart pounding, hands clasped so hard my knuckles went white. The heavy silence stretched for nearly half an hour. Finally, he spoke, voice low. "Paul, the initial evidence you have is pretty strong. The recording clearly shows intent to seize the house. The bank statements prove illegal withdrawals, but let's be straight. It's still not enough for me to feel confident filing charges or guaranteed to win in court." He looked me dead in the eye and continued without sugarcoating. "The recording can be attacked as invasion of privacy. The bank statements need official certification from the bank to be admissible. As for the abuse and forced medication, just your mother's testimony alone isn't enough. We need independent witnesses. Neighbors, doctors, or third parties who directly saw what happened." I froze, but then nodded. Daniel was right. I couldn't rush this. I had to make it airtight so they couldn't slip away. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You start gathering statements from the neighbors. I'll tell you exactly how to record them legally. At the same time, keep the pie digging into the sedatives. We have to connect all the dots to prove intent. I left his office heavy-hearted but more determined than ever. Back at the hospital, Mom asked, "Where did you go, son?" I smiled. "Just meeting an old friend, Mom." That same day, I began collecting more evidence myself. Starting with the neighbors around the house I had bought for Mom. It's a quiet suburban street of similar bungalows. Most residents are elderly and had known Mom for years. I remembered how she used to bring cookies to Mrs. Smith next door. How Mr. Johnson mowed her lawn for her. Now I needed them to testify. It wasn't easy at first. I drove to the neighborhood and parked a safe distance away so Colin and Carla, who were still living there, probably panicking because Mom had disappeared, wouldn't spot me. First, I knocked on Mrs. Smith's door. She's a 70-year-old widow who often sits on her porch knitting. "Hello, ma'am. I'm Paul, Matilda's son." She peered at me through her thick glasses, eyes wary. "Yes, I remember you. What do you need, young man?" I took a deep breath and explained briefly. "Mom is in the hospital exhausted and injured because Colin and Carla abused her. I need you to tell me what you've seen so we can get justice." She was silent for a moment, staring at the street, then sighed. "Come in. I feel so sorry for Matilda." Her voice shook as she spoke. "I heard shouting from your house all the time. Carla screaming at Matilda, calling her useless. Several times I saw your mother pushed to the ground right in the front yard, crying, but too scared to call for help. I wrote everything down, my heart breaking. My strong mother shoved to the ground like that." Mrs. Smith signed the statement, my eyes burned with tears. Next was Mr. Johnson, a burly retired carpenter. At first, he was reluctant. "I don't want to get involved in family business." But when I showed him a photo of Mom lying in the hospital bed, skin and bones, 4 lines in her arms, his expression changed. He let out a heavy sigh. "Lord, Matilda is the kindest woman." Then he told me slowly. "Many nights I heard shouting. Colin yelling, 'Clean the floor. Don't be lazy.' Another time I personally saw Carla shove her so hard she fell when Matilda spilled some water. She just lay there crying, afraid to get up." He gave detailed accounts, signed the statement, and even offered his phone number for verification. I thanked him, pulse racing. These were independent witnesses. Then Mr. Ramirez, who has security cameras covering the whole block, provided footage showing Carla locking Mom outside on the porch one rainy night for 2 hours as punishment for not mopping properly. Mom sat shivering in a thin shirt while Carla smirked from inside. That video chilled me to the bone. "Take it," Ramirez said. "I hate elder abuse." Each testimony was another piece of the puzzle, making the picture clearer and more painful. Why had no one helped her sooner? I blamed myself but kept going, walking a tightrope of nerves. At the same time, Pi Jack kept tracing the sedatives Mom had been forced to take. I called him, "Jack, focus on the drugs. I need the source and who bought them." A few days later, he called back excited. "Got it, Paul. Carla repeatedly bought the drugs from an unlicensed back alley clinic. The doctor there has no proper license. All transactions cash, no receipts, completely off the books." He sent photos and covert video. Carla entering the clinic leaving with bags of pills, hundreds of high doses benzodiazepines over many months, highly addictive and known to cause cognitive decline. Combined with Mom's own testimony, this proved the drugs were administered deliberately and systematically, not for treatment, but to keep her docile and unable to resist signing papers. Jack said, "This is solid independent evidence. You can charge them with illegal drug administration." When I finally had everything, neighbor statements, security footage, drug evidence, the original recording, and bank records, I brought the complete file back to Daniel for final legal review. His office looked like a war room, papers everywhere. After going through it all, he looked up, eyes gleaming. "Paul, you did an amazing job. Independent neighbors, clear video of abuse, drug evidence proving intent, bank fraud, the recording combined. This is rock-solid fraud, theft of property, elder abuse, illegal drug use." I exhaled, still nervous. "You're sure they'll deny everything?" Daniel grinned. "How can they deny physical evidence? I'll file the criminal complaint on your mother's behalf and submit the entire package to the police and prosecutor's office." We drafted the complaint together. I signed on Mom's behalf with power of attorney, heart racing. The day we filed, it poured rain as if the sky itself were washing away the darkness. Daniel drove me to police headquarters, the waterproof briefcase on my lap. The receiving officer reviewed the file, face turning grave. "This is very serious. We're opening an investigation immediately." From that moment, it was no longer just a family tragedy. It had officially become a criminal case. I walked out into the rain, Water lashing my face, but for the first time, I felt a mix of relief and electric anticipation. Colin and Carla would be summoned. They would panic. Back at the hospital, Mom looked at me and asked, "Are you happy, son?" I hugged her tight. "Yes, Mom. Everything is going to be all right." But inside, the storm was rising. Justice was coming, and I would watch them fall. Then the day finally came. The authorities officially summoned Colin and Carla to the police station for questioning regarding the abuse of Matilda, illegal appropriation of property, and the unlawful administration of sedatives. Daniel called me. "They've received the summons. First session is tomorrow morning. You don't have to be there. Let the police handle it." But I couldn't just sit and wait. I quietly went to the station, stood under a dripping tree in the light rain, and watched from a distance. Colin and Carla arrived in that beat-up old car. The one we had once pulled money to buy together years ago. When they stepped out, both were ashen. Carla clutched her handbag so tightly her knuckles went white. Colin kept his head down like a convicted man. They disappeared into the gray building and I imagined the scene inside. A cold interrogation room, harsh fluorescent lights, detectives sitting across from them with a thick stack of evidence. Right from the first session, they panicked, twisting, denying, lying. Daniel later told me from his sources. Colin claimed I only took care of Mom, never abused her. Carla insisted those were just vitamins, not sedatives. They denied everything, but the videos and bank statements made them stammer. I pictured Colin, the brother who once strutted around, now trembling when asked, "Why did you drain your mother's savings account?" And Carla, the sharp-tongued woman, reduced to mumbling, "I don't know anything." A mix of tension and grim satisfaction coursed through me. They were scared. They finally realized the net was closing. After leaving the station, Colin and Carla understood the situation was completely out of control and prosecution was now very real. They no longer laughed or joked. They sped home in panic. Jack the P. I was still watching and reported, "They're screaming at each other." Carla yelled, "You've dragged me into this." Colin was smashing things. They tried to hire lawyers, but the evidence was so overwhelming that no one wanted the case. Raw terror swallowed them whole. They knew there was no escape. The recording clearly revealed their plan to steal the house. The security footage showed Mom locked outside in the rain. The bank statements proved the theft. The neighbors' testimonies were airtight. I stayed at the hospital caring for Mom, but my blood was racing. Justice was closing in. Mom sensed it and asked, "What's worrying you, Paul?" I shook my head. "Nothing, Mom. Just work." Then in the grip of absolute fear, the two of them showed up at the hospital the first time in ages. They appeared before Matilda, looking broken, haggarded, and desperate. It was a late afternoon. The rain had stopped. Weak sunlight filtering through the window. I was feeding Mom porridge when the door opened. They stepped in. Colin gaunt, dark circles under his eyes, Carla's makeup smudged, clothes wrinkled. They stood frozen near the door, afraid to come closer. Colin mumbled, "Mom, Paul, we came to visit." Mom froze, the spoon in her hand trembled, that familiar look of fear returned to her eyes, memories of the abuse flooding back. I stood up and planted myself in front of the bed, voice ice cold. "What are you two doing here? Haven't you hurt her enough?" They exchanged glances. Then Colin dropped to his knees, tears streaming. "Mom, I'm sorry. It's all my fault." He sobbed, begging Mom to forgive him, blaming debts, desperation, Carla's influence, pleading with her to withdraw the complaint. "Mom, I was drowning in gambling debts." I panicked. Carla pushed me, said we had to take your money to pay them off. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Withdraw the complaint. I don't want to go to prison. He wailed, clutching the bed frame, looking utterly pathetic. Carla knelt beside him, voice shaking. "Mom, I was wrong. I was greedy. But I regret it now. Give us a way out, please. We swear we'll pay back every cent. Leave the house. Disappear from your life forever. Don't send us to jail. Have mercy." She cried, tears rolling down her cheeks. But I could see the falseness, her eyes darting, still acting. I stood over them and saw them clearly for what they were. No longer arrogant, just naked fear. Colin, who once hugged me so smugly at the front door, now gravelled like a wet dog. Carla, who had kicked my mother on the kitchen floor, now begged on her knees. My heart itched. This was my own flesh and blood, yet also my enemy. I couldn't hold back. My voice was still as I listed every crime. "You think I don't know everything? I have proof of it all. Video of you locking Mom outside in the rain, Carla. You kicking her when she fainted. Every dollar I sent home. You drained it for gambling and shopping. Every sedative pill you forced down her throat, Colin, to make her sign fake documents and steal her house. You were going to sell her home to pay your debts. They hung their heads, unable to meet my eyes. Colin could barely speak. I shouted, "Admit it. Admit what you did to her." For the first time, with no way left to lie, Colin confessed everything. Greed, crushing gambling debts, Carla's urging, forcing the drug so Mom would sign the forged power of attorney, planning to sell the house. Fine, I admit it. I stole the money you sent. I was drowning in debt. Carla convinced me to drug Mom so she'd sign papers. We were going to transfer the house and sell it. I was wrong. Carla nodded, sobbing. I was greedy, too. I spent it on clothes trips. They bowed their heads in shame. All arrogance gone. I looked at them, rage boiling, yet pain twisting inside me. This was my little brother, now a stranger. Hearing their full confession. Mom understood everything. She trembled, tears falling endlessly. The pain of what they'd done was still raw, but a mother's love made her unable to bear seeing her son in prison. She sobbed, stroking Colin's hair. "My child, why did you hurt me like this? It hurts so much." Then she looked at me, voice frail. "Paul, I can't bear it. Give them one chance, son." I fiercely objected. "No, Mom. They nearly killed you, stole everything, tried to take your house. They have to face the law." But she shook her head, tears streaming. "I know, but Colin is still my son. I can't watch him go to prison. Give them a chance to start over. On the condition they leave the house immediately, repay every dollar they took and disappear from my life forever." She turned to them, voice weak but firm, "Promise me, pay back the money and leave. Never come back." After a long internal struggle out of respect for my mother's wishes, I agreed to withdraw the criminal complaint while the case was still in the preliminary verification stage. Daniel warned, "You sure? Withdrawing now stops the case, but if they break the agreement, you can refile." I nodded heavily. "I'm honoring Mom's decision." We contacted the police, withdrew the complaint, and Colin and Carla signed a legally binding commitment to repay the full $60,000 in installments and vacate the house within a week. For now, they escaped criminal prosecution. They left the hospital with fake gratitude, Colin hugging Mom one last time, Carla forcing a smile. "Thank you, Mom." "Paul," but I saw the truth in their eyes. No real remorse, only temporary relief. I walked them to the door, an uneasy premonition, gnawing at me. Would they keep their word or would they betray us again? The rain began to fall once more, as if warning that the storm was far from over. Few days later, once Mom had fully recovered, and the doctors confirmed she was ready to be discharged, I drove her back to the old house so she could rest and regain her strength. It was a beautiful morning. Golden sunlight filtered through the trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of damp earth after the rain. I drove slowly. Mom sat beside me, gazing out the window, her hand tightly holding mine. "Paul, I've missed the garden so much. I'm going to plant flowers again." I smiled. "Of course, Mom. I'll help you. From now on, I'm staying here with you. No more Japan." She stroked my hair, voice warm. "My boy is all grown up, but you're still the same little child to me." My heart felt warm, yet a faint shadow of unease lingered. Why had Colin been completely silent? No calls, no messages. They had promised to repay the money in installments, but so far only the first $10,000 had arrived. What about the rest? I told myself, they're terrified of prison. They'll keep their word. The car turned onto the familiar street. Trees rustled on both sides and the house appeared at the end of the road. Then I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs. I had been certain Colin and Carla had already moved out. But the moment the car turned the corner, a bright red "For Sale" sign hanging on the iron gate stopped me cold for several seconds. The glaring red board with bold white letters swung gently in the breeze. "For sale. Contact this number." My heart pounded so hard it felt like someone was squeezing it. What the hell? "They're selling the house," I whispered, easing off the gas, eyes locked on the sign. Mom noticed, too. Her voice trembled. "Paul, why is there a 'for sale' sign?" I pulled over a short distance away, trying to stay calm, though my hands shook slightly on the wheel. Strangers were coming in and out of the yard, measuring, taking photos, chatting loudly as if this were no longer Mom's home. A man in a suit held a clipboard and pointed at the porch. "Renovate this part. Add a garage." Two others photographed the backyard, laughing. "Great location, perfect for flowers." My heart stopped. This was Mom's house. The place where she planted flowers, cooked meals, where I grew up. How dare they? I stepped out of the car in a daze and walked over. When I asked what was going on, the man in the suit looked at me casually. This house title was transferred a while ago. We're a real estate company. Bought it from a young couple, Colin and Carla. I think they sold it fast. Good price. The new owner is measuring for renovations, turning it into a small office. The words title was transferred hit me like a thunderbolt. My ears rang. My mind went blank. My legs nearly gave out. Transferred? They had promised to leave the house and repay the money, but they sold it. This was betrayal. I leaned against the gate, gasping for air. The image of them kneeling in the hospital, begging for mercy, flashed before me. Fake smiles, crocodile tears. They had exploited Mom's kindness to get the final signatures. Mom got out of the car behind me. Her face was deathly pale, eyes wide with horror. "Paul, they sold our house," she whispered, clutching my arm. I immediately tried calling Colin, number disconnected. Carla, no answer. All contacts blocked. Facebook, email, everything. Dread flooded me like a tidal wave. I called Daniel, almost shouting, voice breaking, "Daniel. They sold the house. The title's been transferred. What do we do? Mom. Mom is collapsing." Daniel stayed calm. "Paul, breathe. I'm checking the land registry office right now." Minutes later, he called back. Voice grave. Confirmed. The house was transferred using forged documents while Matilda was still under the influence of the sedatives. Her mental capacity was impaired at the time. The signatures were made when she was drugged and not legally competent. They used the fake power of attorney to rush it through. In that instant, I understood the moment they knelt and begged for forgiveness. They had already planned this final betrayal. They gravelled so Mom would soften, withdraw the complaint, and give them just enough time to transfer the title before the police dug deeper. They knew she wasn't mentally competent because of the very drugs they forced on her to contest it. Mom collapsed to the ground in front of the gate when she heard the news. Her face was ashen, eyes empty as the full realization hit. She had personally handed her betrayers their last chance. She sat down hard on the pavement, clutching her chest, sobbing without sound. I trusted them. I was wrong, Paul. Our house is gone, isn't it? I knelt and held her, tears streaming down my face. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'll get the house back. I swear." But the pain was unbearable. She had suffered so much already, and now this final blow. I clenched my fists, rage, agony, and crushing guilt tearing me apart. It was my fault. I had opposed withdrawing the complaint, but I respected her wish. I gave them the opening. If I had stood firm, the house would still be hers. At that moment, I knew for certain. Colin and Carla never intended to change. They only used Mom's mercy to pull off one last theft. They begged for forgiveness to buy time, sold the house, took the money, and vanished. That uneasy premonition had become brutal reality, stabbing straight through my heart. I helped Mom back into the car. She leaned on me, crying the entire way to a hotel. We no longer had a home. I told Daniel to report it to the police immediately. "Daniel, they committed fraud. They forged the transfer." He replied, "Already on it, Paul. This is a far more serious crime now. Document forgery and large-scale property theft." Standing in front of the house that had sheltered Mom through her old age, watching strangers measure and plan while the Pharrell sign swayed in the wind, I finally understood. The real war was only just beginning. I looked at the house one last time. This was war, and I would not stop until they paid the price. The hours that followed were pure hell. I took Mom to stay temporarily in the old family home of a relative. Matilda lay on the bed, eyes red and swollen, whispering over and over, "I was wrong, Paul. I never should have forgiven them." I held her tightly and tried to comfort her. "It's not your fault, Mom. It's mine. I'll get everything back. I promise." But inside, I was burning. Rage and guilt tore at me. Why had I let her talk me into withdrawing the complaint? Why hadn't I stood firm from the start? Daniel worked fast. He prepared a new criminal complaint with the additional evidence, forged title transfer documents, the fraudulent sale of the house, and filed it with the police. The officer who received it looked grave. "This is a big case, Mr. Paul. The stolen savings plus the value of the house amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Clear signs of organized crime, forgery, asset flight." Within days, federal arrest warrants were issued. Photos of Colin and Carla went up everywhere. Airports, bus stations, even local TV news. Wanted fraud, theft of property, elder abuse. The red headline flashed on the screen. I stared at the television, my heart twisting. My little brother, now a nationally wanted criminal. That uneasy feeling I'd had in the hospital had come true. But I felt no relief, only pain. Pain that the family was shattered. Pain that mom had to endure yet another blow. The days of waiting for news were torture. Constant tension and self-reproach. I cared for mom by day, trying to make her smile, cooking nutritious porridge, taking her for slow walks in the nearby park, telling her stories about the old afternoons when she taught me to cook in our kitchen. The deepest torment was about Colin, my own flesh and blood. When we were kids, we shared a room. I told him ghost stories, and he'd curl up against me in fear. The first time he was bullied at school, I fought the other boys. I came home bruised. Mom scolded me, but he hugged me and whispered, "Thank you." Now he had betrayed everything, sold mom's house, and fled with the money. How had he changed so much? Gambling debts, greed. Every night I lay awake, memory swirling, Colin grinning when I sent money home, never knowing he was using it to pay loan sharks. I called Daniel every day. "Any news?" He always answered, "They're tracking them, Paul. Stay calm." But how could I stay calm? The suspense was unbearable, like waiting for a bomb to explode. Where were they hiding? What were they doing with the money from mom's house? After weeks of tracing financial transactions, traffic cameras, and witness statements, the police finally narrowed down their location. Daniel kept me updated. They followed the house sale money to a new account opened under fake names in a neighboring state. Highway cameras caught their car at toll booths. A motel worker reported young couple always arguing said they were on the run. I pictured the police war room. Maps, photos, teams coordinating. It felt like a crime movie, but this was real life and the victim was my mother. Finally, after 3 agonizing weeks, Daniel called at midnight. "Paul, they've been caught." The arrest happened at dawn. They were in a rundown motel already packing to flee to another state. Police reports later revealed the details. SWAT burst in at 4 a.m. while they were still asleep. Suitcases ready by the door. Carla screamed. Colin tried to run but was tackled and cuffed. "You are under arrest for fraud and theft of property," the officer shouted. Mug shot spread across the news. Colin unshaven and wild-eyed, Carla disheveled, no longer glamorous. The day I learned of their arrest, I felt no relief, only a cold, hollow emptiness. I sat beside Mom. Daniel called to confirm. "They're in custody, Paul. The case is fully reopened." Mom wept. "My son, why did it come to this?" I held her, but my heart was numb. No joy, no triumph, just emptiness. Colin was my brother. Now he was a prisoner. The betrayal hurt too much, like a wound that would never heal. I remembered the day Dad died. We clung to each other, crying while Mom whispered, "Take care of each other." That was gone forever. Justice had come, but the family was broken beyond repair. The investigation reopened in full. Every crime, abusing Matilda, forcing sedatives on her, forging documents, draining the savings account, selling the house, and fleeing was added to the charges. Police searched the motel and found forged papers and over $200,000 in cash from the house sale hidden in their luggage. Interrogations combined with old evidence, security footage of Mom locked outside, the recorded conversation about stealing the house, bank statements, neighbor testimonies, drug records from the shady clinic left no room for denial. Daniel helped. "Your mom gave a detailed statement, Paul. They can't talk their way out." The investigation lasted 2 months. The file was massive. The indictment was clear. Organized fraud, elder abuse, illegal drug administration, asset flight. I followed every step, nerves on edge, waiting for the trial, the moment the truth would finally be laid bare. The trial came a few months later. Mom and I attended as victims facing Colin and Carla for the first time since their arrest. The courtroom was packed, reporters, spectators, the air thick with the smell of old wood and paper. I helped Mom to the victim's bench. She sat trembling, eyes fixed on the floor. Colin and Carla were let in, wearing prison uniforms and shackles. Colin, head bowed, gaunt, unshaven. Carla hair in a messy ponytail, face sunken, no makeup. I looked straight at them. My heart itched. My brother now looked like a stranger, an enemy. The trial began. The prosecutor read the charges. Defendants Colin Rowe and Carla Rowe are charged with organized fraud, theft of property, forgery of documents, elder abuse, illegal administration of sedatives, and flight with stolen assets following the unlawful sale of the victim's home. Colin kept his head down the entire time, barely able to speak, only muttering, "I was wrong." When questioned, Carla tried to shift blame. "I wasn't the mastermind. I just followed my husband. Those pills were supplements." But every piece of evidence crushed her lies. The bank records showing $60,000 drained. The recorded conversation about transferring the house. Neighbor testimonies of abuse. Video of mom locked outside in the rain. Forged drug prescriptions. Their lawyer pleaded, "My clients are remorseful and request leniency." The prosecutor shot back, "Remorseful." After selling the house and fleeing the state, witnesses took the stand. Mrs. Smith recounted the shouting. Mr. Ramirez showed the video. Mom wept as she described being forced to take the drugs. The evidence piled up like a mountain. The judge delivered the sentence. Colin Rowe, 18 years imprisonment for organized fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and asset flight. Carla Rowe, 22 years imprisonment for masterminding the abuse, illegal forced administration of sedatives, forging notary documents, and complicity in theft. The gavel fell. The judge's voice echoed. The defendants exploited family trust and systematically tormented the victim for financial gain. Sentences as stated. The court voided the house sale due to forgery, ordered full restitution of the stolen savings and the proceeds from the illegal sale to be returned to Matilda, and seized all related assets, cash from the motel, bank accounts, even their car, to enforce repayment. As the trial ended, I quietly helped Mom out of the courtroom. For the first time in years, she walked slowly but with a lightness, as if an enormous burden had finally been lifted from her life. She leaned on me and whispered, "It's over, son. I'm so tired." I held her close, tears falling. "Yes, Mom. Let's go home and rest." A few months after the trial, I visited the prison at Colin's request. A letter had arrived in shaky handwriting. "Paul, I want to see you one last time." I hesitated, but Mom said, "Go, son. Hear what he has to say." The prison was far away, high walls, razor wire, cold air. I sat in the visiting room, heart in turmoil. Why meet? What was left to say? Behind the glass partition sat the man who used to be my little brother. Thin, worn, in a gray uniform, hair cropped short, eyes ringed with exhaustion. He picked up the phone, head bowed, and admitted every mistake. He begged me to take care of Mom for the rest of her life. "Paul, I was wrong. Greed and debt swallowed me. Carla pushed me, but it was my fault. Please forgive me even though I don't deserve it. Take care of Mom for me. I regret everything." He cried, wiping tears on the glass that separated us. I looked at him for a long time. The hatred was gone. Hatred only exhausts you, but forgiveness was impossible. The wounds ran too deep. I spoke slowly, each word heavy. "Colin, do you have any idea how much Mom suffered because of you? I'll be there for her until her last day. But not for you. You lost that right the moment you betrayed her." I stood, turned, and walked out of the prison. Inside me, there was no rage, no loud sorrow, only a deep, quiet pain. I understood one thing clearly. Some cracks in a family, no matter how the law closes the case, can never be mended. They stay broken forever. 2 weeks after the trial, I took Mom away from the old city, a place now filled with too many painful memories. To begin a completely new life, that city with its familiar streets and the old house now seized and awaiting execution of the judgment felt like a ghost that wouldn't stop haunting us. Every corner held a reminder. The iron gate with its surveillance cameras, the kitchen where Mom had been kicked to the floor, the living room where they had controlled her every glance. "Mom, it's time to go," I said firmly, helping her pack the few personal belongings we still had from the temporary hotel. She nodded, eyes red. "I don't want to stay here anymore. There's been too much suffering." We got in the car and drove south, far from the noisy industrial city toward a quiet coastal town. I had sold a few things I still owned in Japan and combined that with the money recovered through the court judgment, more than $60,000 from the savings account, plus the full value of the illegally sold house to secure our future. Mom sat beside me, gazing out the window, holding my hand tightly. "Paul, I'm scared to start over from nothing." I stroked her hand. "It's okay, Mom. I'm here now. We'll have a new home, a new life." Inside, I was nervous, too. Would she ever forget? Would I? I bought a small, peaceful house near the ocean. Nothing luxurious, but filled with the sunlight and calm that Mom had been denied for so many years. I found it online. A white wooden bungalow with a wide front yard of soft white sand just a few hundred meters from the beach. Only 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, but big windows that welcomed the morning light and the constant soothing sound of waves day and night. In the beginning, Matilda still startled awake at night, still flinched at the sound of strangers. But with each passing day, the panic in her eyes slowly faded. At night, she would sometimes wake and call out, "Paul, where are you?" I'd rush in and hold her. "I'm right here, "Mom. Go back to sleep." She'd cry. I dreamed Colin was hitting me. I'd rub her back, heart aching. "It's over, Mom. Now it's just you and me." Gradually, the sound of the ocean became nature's own sedative. She slept more deeply, woke less often. I took her for regular therapy sessions and physical rehabilitation. Little by little, helping her reclaim a normal rhythm of life. The psychologist in the nearby town, a kind middle-aged woman, listened as Mom poured out the years of control, forced medication, and betrayal. "You're very strong, Mrs. Matilda," the doctor said after the first session. Mom cried, but slowly opened up. "I'm afraid of my own son, yet I still love him." I waited outside, anxious. Would she ever heal? At the same time, I got her moving again. Early morning walks on the beach, breathing the salt air, eating fresh seafood. Her frail body began to fill out. Color returned to her skin. Her hand stopped shaking when she held a glass. One afternoon, she said, smiling. A real smile. "Paul, I feel stronger now." I hugged her tight. "That's all I need, Mom. Seeing you like this makes everything worth it." Matilda started planting flowers on the front porch again, cooking simple meals, and for the first time in years, I saw her laugh without fear. She bought rose seeds at the local market, knelt in the dirt, hands still a little unsteady, and planted them. "I'll make a garden as beautiful as the old one." I helped dig water and watch the green shoots appear. The kitchen smelled of the fish soup she made the old way, simple but warm. "Eat, son." Mom cooked it just like before. She smiled, the lines around her eyes softening, no longer tense with dread. Watching her, my heart felt full. This was the light after all the darkness. I decided to return to the work I loved, but this time not as an escape. I wanted to build a real stable future for us. In Japan, I had worked only to send money home, running from true responsibility. Now, I found local work. A welder at a ship repair yard near the coast. The pay wasn't high, but it was enough. And most importantly, I came home every night, ate dinner with Mom, and told her about my day. The future felt steady. I saved to buy a little more land, maybe open a small workshop one day, and care for her until the end. My heart was calmer, though the memories remained, now as fuel to keep me strong. Some evenings we sat on the porch together, watching the sunset paint the sea red, waves whispering endlessly. I thought back over the entire journey from the moment I stood in front of the old gate to the day I faced them in court. My soul grew quiet. I realized the deepest pain was not the loss of money or the house, but the betrayal of trust by my own blood. Money can be recovered. A house reclaimed, but trust in Colin, my little brother, was shattered forever. I once believed family was unbreakable. Now I know betrayal from within hurts 100 times more. Yet I also understood this. If I hadn't come home that day, if I hadn't dared to face the truth, Mom might never have had these peaceful years. If I'd flown straight back to Japan as planned, she would likely have died slowly from the drugs, the house lost, and no one would ever have known. Coming home, even though it hurt, was the right choice. Watching Matilda quietly water her flowers each morning, I realized that justice doesn't always come quickly. But when you keep walking to the end, it always finds a way. She waters the roses under the morning sun, smiling to herself, rediscovering who she is. Justice through detectives' evidence in the courtroom was slow but certain, like the ocean wearing down stone. I learned that greed can turn a loved one into a monster, but love and awareness can pull a person back from the edge of darkness. Colin's greed made him a monster. My love and Mom's love saved her. Awareness, recognizing the warning signs, was the key and the hardest lesson. Never leave the fate of those you love to blind trust, because evil can sometimes wear the mask of family. Compassion is noble, but misplaced, it can become the knife that cuts the compassionate one. Mom forgave them, and they used that mercy to sell her house. Blind trust nearly killed her. My advice to anyone reading this: truly care for your aging parents, not just with money, but with your presence and your listening ears. When something feels wrong, don't stay silent and endure. And don't delay the truth. Every day you wait can be a day you can never get back. I sent money, but I didn't come home. Didn't really listen. And I almost lost her. Care means being there, calling often, visiting. That is the lesson I paid for in pain. I close this chapter not with hatred, but with a silent promise to myself. From this day forward, I will never again let anyone hurt my mother. I watch her water the flowers and whisper the vow: "Mom, I'll always be here." I hold no more hatred for Colin. He's already paying the price. There is only peace and the quiet joy of being beside her. The journey ends, but the lesson lasts forever.
That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the stories. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.